approval.
தெரியுமா?
தெரியும்.
எங்க தெரியும்?
ஒரே நிமிஷம்.
So, இங்க நான் உட்காந்துக்கணுமா?
இல்ல சார், இங்கே உட்காருங்க சார்.
இல்ல பேச எனக்கு பக்கத்துல வரும்.
I think Rashmi, Arun is on unmute.
Manufacturing, marketing, and post-marketing surveillance of pharmaceutical and medical devices in Japan. And PMD Act governs drug product, quasi-drugs, cosmetics, and medical device. PMD Act governs the drug product. This includes the biological medicine, radioactive medicine, vaccines, recombinant drugs, and cell tissue medicine. Quasi-drugs means skincare items, anti-hair loss shampoo, mouthwash, nourishing tonics, and evacuant. Cosmetics means products with mild effect on the human body used for the care and protection of skin, hair, and nails, and medical devices. In Japan, medical device is divided into 4 categories. Class 1 is X-ray film and so on. Class 2 is ECG and so on. Class 3 is dialyzer and so on. Class 4 is cardiac pacemaker and so on. This is later in detail. If you would like to launch your product in Japan, you need to establish a Japan branch or a partnership with Japanese company. This is regulated by PMD Act. When importing drugs or medical device into Japan, medical device manufacturing and marketing license is required for warehouse and other facilities where products are stored or shipment to the market. And also a foreign manufacturer registration corresponding to the drugs or medical devices manufacturing registration in Japan is required. So Japan regulatory systems are so strict and complicated, and it takes cost and time. That direct market shipment is from a foreign manufacturing site is to Japan is not possible. This is the Pharmaceutical and Medical Device Act regulates the process of new drug approval and new medical device approval. This is the flow of the approval. At first, R&D, and second, approval review, and next, manufacturing, and next, marketing, and post-marketing surveillance. This is the same in pharmaceutical and medical devices. This chart indicates the relationship between products and development flow and PMD Act. R&D is a regulation on methods of clinical trials and data collection. Approval review, regulations on method of review and approval process. And manufacturing steps, regulations on manufacturing and marketing to ensure quality. Marketing step is regulation on marketing about supply chain and label. And post-marketing surveillance step, regulations on collecting adverse event and implementation of safety measures. All steps are regulated by PMD law act. Now, I would like to move on the next agenda, Ministry of Health, Labor, and Welfare, and Pharmaceuticals and Medical Device Agency, PMDA in Japan. Pharmaceuticals and Medical Device Agency is the relationship of these two institutes. Ministry is the administrative institute, and PMDA is a reviewing authority. This is a summary of Ministry and PMDA in Japan. The Japanese regulatory system has been recognized as one of the most sophisticated and stringent regulatory systems in the world. The regulatory policies are developed and administered by the Ministry of Health, Labor, and Welfare. And the Pharmaceutical and Medical Device Agency executes the policies, and certain authorities are delegated to local governments. Ministry delegates approval review to PMDA, and PMDA provides review result, and finally, Ministry give approval. This is a Ministry's activity. They give approval, and PMD Act revise, and safety operation. And Ministry delegate approval reviews to PMDA. This is the PMDA activity, approval review, health hazard remedy, and safety measures, and review results provide. Their relationship is this regime. This table indicates the classification and regulation of medical devices. Medical devices are divided into 4 categories: Class 1, Class 2, Class 3, Class 4. Class 1 is extremely low risk category when failure occurs. This category is, for example, external diagnosis devices and X-ray film, scalpel. These are called general medical devices and need only notification to ministry. It takes no cost and time for notification. It's easy to launch in Japan. And Class 2 is relatively low risk. For example, MRI, electric endoscopy, ultrasonic diagnostics. These are called controlled medical devices and need certification by third-party vendors, company. It takes about $7,000 and 3 to 6 months for certification. And Class 3 is high risk to the human body. For example, dialyzer, artificial bone joint, artificial respirator. These called specially controlled medical devices and need certification or approval from ministry. Some of these class medical devices need clinical trial to get approval. Class 4 is highly invasive and potentially have a direct impact on human body. For example, pacemaker or artificial heart graft, valve, and stent graft. These called specially controlled medical devices and need approval from ministry and need clinical trial. it takes at least $140,000 and 1 to 3 years for get approval. And in 2014, Ministry published the notification about the guidance of software as medical devices. We called SAMD. The ministry defines the scope R&D process of SAMD to develop it quickly. This is a definition. Basically, a program that process data, including images obtained from medical equipment, and create indications, images, graphs, etc., for use in diagnostic treatment. Most of this pattern is medical equipment got the data and data transfer to SAMD. In SAMD, data indication, analysis, and prediction for diagnosis or treatment. This is the definition of SAMD. By the way, this is the classification and regulations of medical device in US FDA. FDA has the most strict pharmaceutical or medical devices regulations globally. This is FDA classification of medical devices. FDA classification divided medical devices into three categories. Class 1 is almost same as Japan classification class 1. General medical devices, for example, X-ray film, and so on. And class 2 is almost same as Japan classification class 2. It needs GO 510K pre-market notification. And class 3 is almost same as Japan classification 3 and class 1 and class 4. It needs pre-market approval. Uh, 510K pre-market notification. This is applied to class 2 medical devices. This is a pre-market submission mode to FDA to demonstrate that device to be marketed is as safe and effective. That is substantially equivalent to a legally marketed device that is not subject to pre-market approval. And pre-market approval is applied to class 3 medical device. Pre-market approval is the FDA process of scientific and regulatory review to evaluate the safety and effectiveness. This is a US regulatory act. Last agenda is medical device manufacturing and marketing license. I'm sorry. Medical device manufacturing and marketing license is if you would like to launch your product in Japan, you have to get a product certification approval and this license. This is a medical device manufacturing and marketing license. It is mandatory to obtain medical device manufacturing and marketing license. When someone plans to launch medical device in Japan, to obtain this license, 3 requirements. These are personal requirements. the QMS system standards and the GBP standards. Personal requirement needs Go officer and alignment to ISO 13485 and alignment to the good vigilance practice ordinance establishment and GBP system. So these requirement, if you requirement is these three requirements. Okay. I think you know the summary of ISO 13485. This is a quality management system, especially for the medical device industry. It has been adopted as the basis of quality management methods in regulations relating to medical device in many countries around the world, including Japan. And the products covered by ISO 13485. Medical devices and in vitro diagnostic product, including implantable medical devices, designated under the PMD Act of Japan. Medical device and in vitro diagnostic product designed in another countries, you have to get some license. This is last slide. You have to get these license approval and registration when you want to launch your product in Japan. Marketing and manufacturing and marketing license, manufacturing approval, domestic manufacturing registration, foreign manufacturing registration, all comes together. You can launch in Japan market. I am so busy to about the this regulatory issue in our new product. So if my presentation contribute to you, I'm glad. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much, Marumoto-san. I think since a lot of participants are from India, they must have got very good knowledge about Japanese regulations and also medical device US regulations. So if anybody has any questions, you can please put it in the Q&A box. Because of the time constraint, I will get back to you on it. Also, any queries on medical affairs, you can please put in the question. Thank you so much, Marumoto-san, for your time today and being a part of the summit again. Okay, so next up, we have Dr. Arun. Dr. Arun, I hope you can hear me.
Yes.
Hello.
Am I audible?
Yes, yes, you're audible. Thank you so much for taking the time for us today at the Global Virtual Healthcare Summit. I'd like to let you know that we have a lot of attendees, some of who are also students who are looking forward to your session today, especially the ones who are interested in the regulatory side of clinical trials and want to make a career in that direction. Before we begin, I'd like to give an introduction of Dr. Arun Kumar. He's the Vice Principal and HOD Professor of Pharmacology at Chettinad Hospital and Research Institute. He's a distinguished medical professional with extensive experience in the field of pharmacology. He holds the prestigious titles of MD, PhD, and FSRP. Dr. Arun Kumar currently serves as the Vice Principal and Professor leading the Department of Pharmacology at Chettinad Hospital. and Research Institute. His commitment to maintaining ethical standards in medical research is evident through his leadership roles as a chairperson and vice chair of various institutional human ethics committees across renowned healthcare institutions. As the director of the Internal Quality Assurance Cell at Chettinad Academy of Research and Education, Dr. Arun Kumar plays a pivotal role in ensuring and enhancing the quality of education and research practices. His contributions extend beyond the boundaries of a single institution, as evidenced by his affiliations with multiple institutional human ethics committees, reflecting a commitment to fostering ethical research practices in the broader medical community. His dedication to advancing medical knowledge, coupled with his leadership in ethical oversight, positions him as a respected figure in the medical and research community in Tamil Nadu, and we are extremely honored to have him on board here. So, Dr. Arun, I'll just pass on the host privileges to you, and you'll be able to share your screen.
Sure.
Yes.
Are you able to see the slides, madam?
Yes, the slides are visible.
Is it okay now?
Yes, yes, Dr. Arun, we can see
Okay.
this.
Right. Good afternoon. See, I'm going to talk about the current regulatory scenario for clinical trials in India. Before I start, I think I need to thank AKT Healthcare and their team for inviting me to be part of this global summit. I thought maybe India has introduced these new drugs and clinical trial rules 2019 to give more transparency and accountability in the way clinical trials are handled at the regulatory level. I have prepared maybe about 30-35 minutes presentation, and I'll try to make it as brief as possible. This regulatory framework in India, we call it Central Drugs Standard Control Organization, CDSCO. It is with the Director General of Health Services, Ministry of Health and Family Welfare and Government of India. This is the apex body that governs or regulates the drug and device approvals and the clinical trials in India. It is also referred to the Central Drug Authority or Central Licensing Authority. It has the scope of taking over the regulatory control on the import of drugs, approval of new drugs, devices, and also approving or giving NOC for conducting clinical trials with drugs and devices. This is the organogram. I'm sorry for the poor quality. I've just taken it from a website. We all know that the headquarters of our apex body is located in Delhi. It has about 6 zonal offices. We had about 4 zones, north, east, south, and west. And in addition, we have Hyderabad and Ahmedabad. And then we have about 7 subzonal offices, and port of entry happens for a drug or device in the airport or seaport. We have about 13 airport and seaport offices. This is the organogram of CDSCO, but most of the affairs with regard to approvals of drugs and NOC for clinical trials happens in the headquarters itself. It has various divisions. Previously, we used to have not so much clarity on this, but now everything is black and white and fully transparent that, we can see that there are all there are essential divisions in CDSCO to handle various aspects. Starting from BA studies, there is a separate division. Biologics, we have a separate division in the agency. Clinical trial approval is done by a different agency. Ethics committee registrations, we have a division there. Licenses are given by a separate division. And then legal cell and the cell which is handling serious adverse events. Different divisions in CDSCO help us to approach the respective people and then get the relevant applications, filing, and then approvals or rejections, whatever it is. In India, we actually had regulations in Schedule Y of Drugs and Cosmetics Act.
Arun, I'm so sorry. We don't see the slides moving.
You're not able to see the slides, madam?
We can see the slides, but it's only on the first slide still.
No, I think I'm changing it.
Yeah.
This is the first slide, right? Do you see the second one?
No, we can't see the second slide. It's
Now, do you see the second one?
Yeah, now we see the second one.
Is it in the presentation mode or is it in the slide?
I can see it in the slide. It's moving now. Yeah, sorry.
When I make it to slideshow, do you see the changes?
Yeah, yes, correct.
Do you see the changes, ma'am?
Yes.
I'm sorry about it.
No problem. Thank you so much.
Yes. I think I have tried to brief on the Indian Drug Regulatory Agency, CDSCO, and then what is their role and the organogram stuff, which was referring to head office and zonal offices and port of entries, etc. And various divisions in CDSCO, starting from BABE, biologics, clinical trials, ethics committees, and so on. Now, this is what is about. I was trying to talk about regulations for clinical trial. We had actually Schedule Y of Drugs and Cosmetics Act, 1940, but then it is replaced by NDCT 2019. And at present, Schedule Y, we don't refer it for any purpose except in case we have drugs for animal use. We can refer Schedule Y. Otherwise, I think we have to refer in case of clinical trials. For drugs and devices, we need to refer to New Drugs and Clinical Trial Rules 2019. It was a great initiative by the government of India to make more, to make the entire process, to attract the stakeholders from industry, from academia, and giving them clear-cut guidelines and rules so that, the entire process becomes hastened. In the way when people are in the queue for a long time, they get frustrated. But now with this NDCT 2019, things have become easy for everybody to approach the regulator and then get their approval or NOC, etc. These rules are actually applicable to clinical trials of all new drugs and investigational new drugs for human use and BABE studies and ethics committees. I think all of us are going to play some role in the way we are approaching clinical trials, BABE studies, and also ethics committees. So whenever we have issues or we have processes involved with these stakeholders, it is always good we refer to NDCT 2019 and get what the rule says so that we also understand and we fight when there is undue delay with regard to the approvals granted by the agencies. Now, NDCT has got various chapters and schedules. To be more precise on it, we have about 13 chapters in Indian Clinical Trial Act and also about 8 schedules. And I will try to give you a brief run through of various important sections and chapters so that at the end of it, we have some clear-cut idea about how we move forward in the way we are approaching clinical trials. To start with, like many of the acts and regulations, it gives the definitions. Many of these definitions are overlapping and they are present in multiple guidelines, including CFR in US or FDA guidelines or EMA guidelines in Europe and also GCP, ICH GCP or Indian GCP. All these guidelines and rules always talk about the various terms and definitions. And similar to that, we also have definitions for various terms. Like we define what is a new drug and the rules describe what is a clinical trial. What is an orphan drug? For that matter, US has a different criteria to call it an orphan drug. In India, orphan disease is something which is seen not more than 5 lakh population. If you see a disease in a very rare subgroup, let's say 1 lakh people out of 100 crore are suffering from a particular disease, it is an orphan disease. And we develop a drug for that, then there is no fee to be paid for the regulator. Absolutely, it is free and they encourage people to develop orphan drugs. And similarly, I think they are talking about post-trial access. We have a detailed discussion on it later. After completion of the trial, in case if you see benefit to the patients with the IND new drug, or investigational new drug, this section allows the patients to continue to receive those new drugs based on the recommendation of the investigator. And the rules define a similar biologic, like biosimilar in some other regulatory agency, we call it similar biologic. Like that, there are various important terms that are defined here. I have tried to discuss only 3 definitions here, for I feel that these 3 definitions are very important. In India, what is a new drug? Because many times the acts and rules are related to new drugs. So we should not miss the definition of a new drug. Generally, we see that any drug which is a sustained release formulation, or which is a modified release formulation, or which is novel drug delivery system which is getting used in the drug formulation, then it is always a new drug. Even if it was approved last year, then we try to market it again now, then it becomes a new drug. All biologicals are always new drugs. But then for other drugs, for example, a drug which is not approved by the agency so far, and the drug has been approved for a different claim, and now a different company or an investigator or a sponsor is approaching for a new indication, new dose or new dosage form, then it is a new drug. And fixed dose combinations are new drugs. So these 3 category of drugs, they do not remain new drugs forever. They remain new drugs only for 4 years. And in case if you want to do some research after 4 years, and if you want to do some studies after 4 years, we need not consider those candidates as new drugs. Even for bioavailability and bioequivalent studies, if we conduct BE studies with new drugs, a new drug definition is within 4 years of marketing, it becomes a new drug. If we cross that 4 years, it becomes not a new drug, and hence there are many waivers given in the way we are approaching the trial approvals and ethics committee approval. So I will request all of you to please have this in all of your mind, that in India, a modified release formulation is always a new drug. Never it becomes an old drug from approval point of view. Vaccines, monoclonal antibodies, stem cells, biologicals, all these are new drugs always. In case tomorrow, if you want to market BCG, it is a new drug. BCG vaccine is there for 50 years. But tomorrow, if you want to develop the same BCG, then it becomes a new drug, because it is a vaccine, it is a biological compound, but not ibuprofen. In case if you want to develop it, it's not a new drug, because it was approved for more than 4 years old, more than 5 years, 10 years, 15 years old. And hence, this point is important for us to differentiate a new drug and not a new drug, that give us some allowances in case if we handle olden drugs. And clinical trial, it is defined here, and we know pretty well that it is a human experiment. We try to develop safety, efficacy, and tolerance data with the clinical outcomes and PK/PD outcomes and adverse effects. But this is something which the rule has described it first time, the biomedical and health research. The rule actually differentiates the human research into 2. One is the regulated or regulatory clinical trial. The other one is non-regulatory clinical research. This non-regulatory clinical research is also a human experiment. It is done with some drugs or devices, or with some samples, or with some stem cells, or some with vaccines. But the purpose of this research is not to generate the data to submit it to government agency. And all such human experiments done without the primary objective of submitting the data to government agency, it becomes a biomedical and health research, and it doesn't include regulatory clinical trials. Why they have divided into 2 types? The type of human experiments is that if we do clinical trials, we need to get it approved by the ethics committee, which is registered with CDSCO. Whereas if we do biomedical and health research, there is no need to get approval from the ethics committee, which is registered with CDSCO. Rather, there is a separate body which registered ethics committees. It is Department of Health Research under ICMR. We'll see it little later. So for practical purposes, if all of you are handling both types of research, we need to make sure that the ethics committees are registered with the respective bodies. For clinical trials, it is CDSCO that is registering the ethics committee. For biomedical research, it is Department of Health Research, which is registering the ethics committee. And this is again very important for people in ethics committee and people who are doing both types of research. For example, I am doing both regulatory research and academic research. For me, an ethics committee which is registered in both the agencies are very important. And then chapter 2, maybe I'll skip it. Now, this is what I was referring. Chapter 3 and 4, they're talking about ethics committee. Only in India, I see the 2 divisions of ethics committees and registering agencies. Now, this ethics committee is meant for clinical trials and BA/BE studies. It gives, of course, these guidelines are already given in a lot of GCP guidelines and international standards. I'll try to highlight on the deviations or improvisations over the existing guidelines. It says minimum 7 members, like many of the guidelines. It says that we have to have a lay person. Here is the difference. It makes it mandatory that at least one member should be a female member. They are recognizing the importance of females in such committees, and they are making it mandatory that females should be part of ethics committees. And then pharmacologists, legal expert, clinician, and it is insisting that periodic training for ethics committee members are very important. And like all the guidelines, member secretary should be from the same institute and chairperson from outside of the institute. And they are again saying, I think in no other guideline we could see this, 50% of the members should be from outside of the institutes, and only 50% can be inside the institute. So these are some of the improvisations that we see in the existing guidelines when we drafted these ethics committee guidelines for clinical trials, BA/BE studies. And they're also making it mandatory in case if such a committee is reviewing clinical trials, then they need to get it registered, the ethics committee. And there is an application process which is done free of cost by the agency. There is a Sugam portal. We need to open an account in it, and then we need to apply it. And I believe there is no cost involved in it. And they give registration in about 45 days, which is pretty good here. And the validity of registration, it is 5 years here. And before 3 months, we need to apply it to continue our registration. If you miss this target, then once the date is over, we cannot review any more proposals which are falling under regulatory clinical trials. And such committees should store the records for 5 years. The ethics committees, this is very important that we need to remember that it is only for 5 years and it is mandatory. We need to have the documents stored for 5 years, and we need to look for spaces, because if you review about 10-15 projects in 1 year and counting it for 5 years, we will have about 3, 4, 5 cupboards full of documents, and we need to make sure that we have sufficient space for it. Now, this is the other ethics committee that I was talking about, Ethics Committee for Biomedical and Health Research. Now, this committee should be registered with the Department of Health Research. Now, this DHR is a separate department. It falls under the Indian Council of Medical Research, and we need to essentially follow a separate guideline. I mean, this is again a general ethical guideline, right from 1980s. I believe that ICMR keeps publishing this guideline, National Ethical Guidelines for Biomedical and Health Research, involving human participants. So the point is that if we review clinical trials, we need to make sure that the ethics committee is registered in CDSCO, and we need to follow CDSCO guidelines and GCP guidelines. And if we review academic proposals, biomedical research, we need to make sure that we follow this guideline, and we need to register with Department of Health Research. Maybe at some point in time, both the agencies will sit together and will form a unified guideline so that a single registration can be sufficient. And then importantly, NDCT is giving us a detailed note on how to approach the regulator. What are the timelines? What are the forms available? When do they give approval? How do they reject an application? Is there an appealing mechanism present in the system? In case if you receive a rejection letter, can we appeal it? Everything is highlighted in the relevant sections. And this particular chapter gives us the scope to file a clinical trial application. We need to file it in form CT04, and usually they take about 90 working days to decide whether it is approved or whether they need some clarification, whether it is rejected, etc. And any clinical trial application which is approved in India is valid for 2 years. We need to make sure that we start the study in 2 years. Otherwise, after 2 years, we need to again apply it and get it renewed so that we are not getting lapsed in terms of timelines with regard to NDCT. And there is another incentive that they are giving to people, maybe researchers, maybe companies, maybe pharma companies. In case if we develop a drug, we discover a drug in India, we do basic research, we manufacture, we have plans to manufacture in India, then they are giving such an allowance here, because right now the discovery and development is not so great in India compared to the molecules invented in other countries like USA or Japan or maybe other Western countries. So to motivate the Indian researchers, they have given such an allowance that in India, if we do all these processes, then the timeline is restricted to 30 working days, not 90 days. Even in this 30 days, if we do not receive any communication, then we can take it that the project is approved. It deemed to have been approved by the regulator, and we need to, on day 31, if we have not received any communication, we need to complete form CT4A, submit it to the agency, and then day 32 we can start conducting the trial. So such an initiative taken by the Indian regulator is only for the purpose of motivating Indian researchers to develop and to do basic research in India, so that India is also becoming a big player in the global arena for research and development of new drugs. And we should not forget that the approval given is only for 2 years. Unless we start within 2 years, then we need to go back to them and then get it again renewed. They are only insisting on 2 things when we conduct a clinical trial. One is approval by the ethics committee, which is registered in CDSCO. And we need to communicate this approval to the regulator within 15 working days. The moment we get the EC approval, in 15 days, we need to inform the regulator. And then we need to make sure that the trial is registered in this registry. Of course, there are several registries available. WHO is maintaining a registry. In US, there is a separate registry. But in India, if we do a trial, it is mandatory we have to register in CTRI before we enroll the first subject. If we skip this, they will not enroll the trial, and then it becomes a big problem in enrolling such trials once we start the enrollment. These 2 are important prerequisites for conducting clinical trials in India, in addition to getting NOC, no objection certificate, from the regulatory agency. Now, this act also has made it very clear that the sponsor should be submitting periodic updates to the agency. There are 2 types of updates that they are talking about. One is on subject enrollment. We start the trial, then we keep enrolling the subjects over a period of 1 year or 2 years. Then in every 4 months, we need to submit update to the agency. It is about status of the subject enrollment. And then in the Sugam portal, once in 6 months, we need to prepare a report and then submit a periodic status report of the trial, which is not restricted only for the enrollment, but also related to the investigational products. It is related to adverse events, serious adverse events, anything that we are generating in this 6 months, we need to compile it as a report and then submit in the Sugam port. And they're also talking about different important timelines on it. In case we can terminate a trial at any point in time, and if the sponsor is terminating within 30 working days, we need to inform the agency that we have terminated with the reasons why we have terminated the trial. And in case if there is death or disability, and there are multiple timelines again involved in it with regard to reporting of such events to agency. But once the agency communicates to us that this is the compensation you need to provide to the patient or their legally acceptable representative, then the time given to the sponsor is only 30 working days. If you receive a letter on December 1st, then within December 31st, we need to disperse the amount to the patients. I mean, the regulator has been taking such strong stand because of their experience. Many patients are sending complaints that compensation is not given to them, and hence they have made it transparent. Now the patients are aware of it, the sponsor is aware of it, and the investigator is aware of it, and the responsibility falls on the sponsor that they have to submit, they have to disperse the amount in 30 working days. And a serious adverse event, there are again multiple timelines. Here the detailed follow-up report should be submitted by the investigator in 14 days. Of course, there is a 24-hour timeline within which the investigator should be reporting the serious adverse event to the head of the institute, to the ethics committee, to the sponsor, and the licensing agency. And in addition to this 24 hours, a detailed report should be submitted in 14 days' time. Now, these timelines are very important, and the agency is not giving us any allowance in terms of we skip some timelines on this. Now, this is what I was referring to it when I started my presentation and talking about some definitions are given by the agency. Post-trial access of the drugs. I mean, clinical trials, let's say phase 1 or 2 or even phase 3, they're all done with new drugs or investigational new drugs. When we have a disease, maybe an orphan disease, maybe any disease for that matter, where we don't have any treatment, there is no alternative treatment available, and we are doing a trial in this condition, the patients are receiving the treatment, and at the end of the trial, if the investigator feels that some patients are getting benefit out of it, then there is always a possibility that the stakeholders are suggested to give this new drug or IND to the patient till the investigator feels that the patient should be given this particular medication. This is very useful in oncology, in hematology, in rare diseases where we are supposed to continue the treatment for a long time. It is very important, and I don't know, is there any other regulation which is talking about post-trial access of drugs like how the NDCT 2019 is talking about. And nowadays, ethics committees are insisting. I sit for many reviews of such trials, and we insist that, citing this rule, we insist that the sponsor should be willing to support the patients with post-trial access of drugs. Otherwise, we say that we are not approving such protocols. I've heard that when imatinib as a drug, it's a tyrosine kinase inhibitor. I think it was approved for some hematological malignancy before 40, 50 years. I know one patient who received imatinib when phase 1 or phase 2 trial was done in US. Till today, the company is packing and then sending the medication to that particular patient till today, 40 years, free of cost. Such a commitment, the Indian regulator is also expecting from Indian sponsors and global sponsors, for why they have added this section in NDCT 2019, post-trial access of drugs. And again, I have not seen this in any other guideline or regulation. The NDCT is talking about academic clinical trial. There are many researchers, maybe working in pharmacy institutes, maybe in medical institutes, and doctors who are motivated enough to conduct research in human beings with drugs which are already approved and marketed in, let's say, India. If you want to take it the clinical trial mode, even a new formulation becomes a new drug. Even a new route of administration becomes a new drug. Even dose reduction or dose enhancement becomes a new drug. So the investigators or the academicians were feeling, such restrictions may give hindrance to them in doing research, citing that the agency has given a scope to the academicians to start conducting trials with any drug which is approved already and available in the market. And these academicians are free to do research with regard to new route of administration, new indications, new dosage forms, and new dose levels also. There is no need to get approval from the agency as such. They are categorically saying that there is no need to get permission from CDSCO. All that is needed is to get approval from the ethics committee. And in case if the ethics committee has got a doubt on this, whether the proposal submitted by the investigator falls under academic trial or a regulatory trial, it is not the responsibility of the investigator to get clarity. It is the responsibility of the ethics committee to get the clarity. What do they say? They are saying the ethics committee should write a letter to agency. And if the agency is not responding in 30 days time, it means that the ethics committee can take it as an academic trial and can give permission to the doctor to start the clinical trial. Such a, a rule or such a statement, we don't see it in any other guideline. Personally, I have not seen it such a, encouraging statement to motivate academic researchers to pursue research with drugs and devices. Academic clinical trial. Now, this is what I was referring. If it is a regulatory clinical trial, we need to get approval from the ethics committee, which is part of CDSCO. This academic clinical trial also should be approved by the ethics committee, which is registered in CDSCO, because both are overlapping with CDSCO and clinical trial. It is important. We need to make sure that the committee is registered appropriately in the respective agencies. And then people who are interested or who are pursuing BA/BE studies, the validity period for permission is 1 year. Maybe if you could recollect, the validity period for clinical trial approval granted is 2 years. And the form is CT4. And for Indian researchers who are doing research in India, it is 30 days and there is a allowance given for auto approval for them. Whereas for bioavailability and bioequivalent studies, if you see here, the validity period for approval is only 1 year. And the form, of course, is different, CT05. Of course, there is a prescribed fees. We will see it later. And this is what I was referring to, compensation. Compensation, finally, they are giving 30 days time to disperse the amount, but the timelines are 24 hours for the initial report, 14 days for the detailed report. For the ethics committee, I think it is 30 days timeline. And then the licensing authority will take about 60 days to get the comments from expert committee. Then license. Sorry. Then they are taking about 90 days to design. To decide on this. All they are insisting is within 30 days we need to pay the money to the patients or patients' relatives or legally acceptable representatives. Now this is very important. They are not only talking about only the adverse events or serious adverse events should be compensated. They're talking about in case if there is protocol violation, we need to pay the compensation. In case if you are using placebo and there is an untoward event, we need to pay compensation. Of course, there is a congenital abnormality, we need to pay the compensation. In case if you are using concomitant medication, not a trial medication, if there is an adverse event, we need to pay compensation. We do phlebotomy, we do minor procedures, suturing as a part of the trial. And if there is a problem out of it, then we need to pay the compensation. This is again giving a lot of clarity to people to understand, which will attract compensation from the regulatory agents. And then a Center for Conducting Bioavailability and Bioequivalence Studies. India has got many of the CROs, FDA approved or FDA inspected CROs, and many regulatory agencies keep inspecting Indian CROs for they are doing good work. And such a center, in case if you want to start, we need to get it registered with CDSCO, for which there is an application, and the validity period for approval is 5 years. And we need to maintain the records for 5 years minimum after completion of the study. Now they are making it transparent. Again, we need to open an account in Sugam portal. Then we need to file the application and get it registered with CDSCO. And then to manufacture new drugs or investigational new drugs for clinical trials or BA/BE studies or for testing and analysis purpose, they are giving license in 90 days. And the permission to manufacture is usually vested with 3 years with the extension of 1 more year. So even if we think of doing some research with regard to manufacturing and formulating, we need to file the application and get the license, because we have 3 more years to do full research and then get optimal formulation in our hand. And then to import new drugs for clinical trials, there is a separate clinical trial application form is available, form CT16. Again, they are taking 90 days time to give approval. And here again, the approval is granted for 3 years. Now, this is a license. Many of us, I mean, doing international clinical trials or doing BA/BE studies for international market, we used to import the medications from other countries and then do the clinical trials here. For that, this is the application we need to file, and which has got a validity of 3 years. Within 3 years, we need to import the drug once we get it.
I'm so sorry, Dr. Arun, we'll have to end soon.
Yeah, I'll take only 5 more minutes.
Sure, thank you.
Yeah. And then they're talking about emergency purpose in case if we want to develop a drug or we want to use it an unapproved drug. They're giving permission to government doctors to import the drugs and to use it. Like in COVID, we were using a lot of medications which are not available for trial purpose. We wanted to use it straight away in patients. They were giving us permission, and we were using it. And to go to the schedules, the rule is giving a scope to let us know about various data that we have to submit when we do clinical trials, again overlapping with international guidelines, animal pharmacology, toxicology, and human clinical data. With that, chemistry, manufacturing, and control data, we need to submit it when we file a clinical trial application. And there are 2 processes. In case if we develop a drug for serious life-threatening condition, even with surrogate endpoints other than direct endpoints, they give us permission to even market a drug for a condition for which there is no drug available. And they also motivate us to give expedited review. This is especially for orphan drugs. Even before completing the full clinical trial, if we have promising data, we can ask for expedited review and we can get marketing approval. And then they're talking about fees. Many of you may be aware of it. the respective fees for various applications. It ranges from 2 lakhs for phase 2, phase 3, and 3 lakhs for phase 1. And for a BAB study center, it is about 5 lakh Indian rupee. And for compensation with regard to serious adverse events, they have divided into death, disability, and congenital abnormality and other life-threatening illnesses. I think this will be my last discussion. In case of death, this is the formula, and I don't think any regulator has given such a formula to calculate the compensation. They have made it so transparent that the base amount is 8 lakhs, and they are calculating some factors for age and risk factors for the disease severity, and they can get compensation anything from 8 lakhs or 4 lakhs to 40 or 50 or 70 lakhs, depending upon the age and depending upon the risk factor. In case of disability, there is a different formula and they calculate it. And in case of birth defect, usually 50% of the base amount is given in addition to the medical management. Roughly, they will get about 4 lakh Indian rupee in case if they get congenital abnormality. And in case it is a simple admission and then discharge, there is a formula to calculate the compensation amount to be paid. So this is what I think I have it to share. What I feel about making it the current scenario for conducting clinical trials in India. The current regulatory scenario in India, with the advent of NDCT 2019, it is more transparent, it is more accountable, and it is more responsible also. And it is one of the great initiatives by the government of India in attracting all the stakeholders to have India as a destination to initiate clinical trials and to be part of not only Indian drugs, but also global clinical trials. With this, I think I have come to the end of the presentation. And I thank the organizers and AKT team for giving me this wonderful opportunity to share these points with all of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Arun. I think this was a very insightful session wherein we understood the bare basics of regulations. And I also have a lot of requests on the presentation, if it will be okay for you to share.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I will send it, madam. You can always use it and share it with all your participants.
Sure, sir. Thank you so much again for your time, for being a part of the summit.
Thank you very much, madam.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Rashmi, is my voice audible?
Yes, Mujibji. Just a minute. I am trying to take back the host privilege on to you.
You can make me co-host also. It's fine for me.
Yeah, I'm
How much time I have? If you can give, I'll put my stopwatch.
You can please take your time. It's all right. It's all gone 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's okay. I mean,
Yeah. Now we are host now.
I have made you the host. Are you able to share your screen?
Hopefully, yeah.
Yes. So before we start off, Mujibji, I would like to introduce you.
No, I think we can skip that in the interest of time. If you really want to do, I'm okay with it. But yeah, you can go ahead quickly.
Just very, very brief.
Yeah.
I would like to introduce to the audience, since this is being recorded, it's actually live right now on YouTube and Facebook. I'd like to introduce to the audience an extremely dynamic personality who I had the pleasure of meeting very recently, Mr. Mujibuddin Sheikh. He is a very experienced personality in the clinical research industry. He's worked in several big organizations such as Accenture, Paraxel, Oracle, IQVIA, and now is the founder, owner of a very successful organization called Clinosol, based out of Hyderabad. And I have seen him effortlessly going around, training students, speaking to people. Yeah, like I said, possibly the most dynamic personality. Sir, I am very, very honored to have met you, and we are very, very honored to have you up for this session today. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. I think the most dynamic team which I am working is this team who have made this happen. And the speakers, I was listening to the speakers and the way the sessions were being designed, the speakers were speaking about the advancement and the innovations and the regulations. It was super good. So I'll make sure that though it is on online session, I'll make sure that I'm getting connected to you with the topic, which is decentralized clinical trial, which is the future. And most probably other speakers also would have spoken about some of the points about virtual clinical trials. So where exactly this all words started and how we are going ahead with this kind of a terms, I'll just put some light over it. So what happened in COVID was everyone was sticking to homes, and everywhere there was a lockdown and life got standstill like that. But everyone wanted the treatments, everyone wanted the vaccines, everyone wanted the diagnostics devices, everyone wanted the drugs to be coming into market. But these drugs or devices or vaccines will not come unless and until we conduct a clinical trial. So the problem here happened is earlier we used to speak theoretically that we can do decentralized clinical trial. Why every patient have to come to a hospital to conduct the clinical trial? Why every patient home cannot become a site, and why we cannot give the feasibility to the patient to conduct the clinical trial at the patient home, at the locality, or at the patient centricity at the patient home? Why can't we conduct the clinical trial? So before COVID, it was a theoretical version, what we were speaking, that this could have been done, that we can do a drone-based dispensing, we can use a biometrics, we can use a wearables, we can use a COAs, we can use a pros, we can use a telemedicine, we can use a e-consent. We were speaking so much theoretically before COVID. Suddenly what happened, COVID has hit and everyone got standstill and everyone went into homes without getting interacted to the hospitals because they were afraid about getting COVID if you travel to hospitals or if you go to sites. But still the research has to continue, the time has to reduce, and the research has to evolve more of getting the vaccines or drugs and devices. Then that came into picture called as a decentralized clinical trials. It's a simple logic that we are not into centralized location, we are into remote locations, we are into decentralized location. Every patient home has become a site for us, and more adaptability for the patients, and more patients are enrolling into clinical trial because we are giving an ability to the patient to participate at his versions and at his level to conduct into clinical trials. So now with that kind of things, I'm going forward with what exactly is decentralized and how this came into picture and how we are going to have the future. So now coming back to DCT. So DCT in short terms, it's called as decentralized clinical trial, which is defined. So how are we going to define is through the telemedicines or mobile apps, or by using e-pros, or by using e-consents, or by using wearables and technology to conduct the clinical trial over the traditional clinical trial. If you see traditional clinical trial, patient used to participate into clinical trial. They used to go and meet doctors, take the consent and participate in clinical trial. In front of doctors, they used to take a drug and the data is being collected and serious adverse events are being reported. The whole traditional system was being followed. Now, nothing is being as same as traditional. Patient does not need to come and meet to the investigator also to get enrolled. Patient directly calls to a toll-free number saying that, okay, boss, my age is this, my criteria is this, my inclusion criteria, my exclusion criteria is this, can you enroll? And system will enroll the subject, and investigator directly puts a drone-based dispensing where a drone goes to the patient home and goes and takes the drugs with the patient, where the compliance of a drug can be used by smart pills. The consent can be taken by using telemedicine. If a patient gets an adverse event called as rash, he can take a picture, upload it to the investigator, and investigator can immediately go and give treatment. And patient can go to a local site rather than going to 100 kilometers away. So now this all changed our system thinking that how best can we use decentralized clinical trials and the adherence to the patients to the particular clinical trial. Without the patient is unhappy to travel, to spend money, to waste his time, all those things have got reduced. And the time to get the market has drastically reduced 50 to 60% because of one word, that is your decentralized clinical trials. And coming back to remote decentralized clinical trials as an operation strategy. So this is a strategy for the technology enhanced clinical trials. So we just added clinical trials along with the technology, but But in a bracket of regulations, we are strictly adhering to the regulations which are being given by CDSCO, NDCTs, FDAs, MHRAs, PMDAs, all the regulations, we are bracketed into it, but we are using technology where patient centricity is more, involvement of the patient into clinical trial is more, the travel time and spending of money has reduced, and the quality of data has been increased. So altogether, this is a beautiful situation where the future is all about the decentralized clinical trials, where we are more motivating the participants moving from the traditional research to the decentralized clinical trials. So now, how are we going to understand about decentralized clinical trials? Why patients want the decentralized clinical trial rather than looking into it? So now, simple logic. For conducting this kind of a conference, there are two options. One is offline, one is online, which is virtual. Now, there are advantages of online versus offline. So the biggest advantage for online is on time, every speaker is ready to speak. No delegates have to travel to attend this kind of a session. And the engagement of every delegate is same as offline. Now, if you just see that the conference is being held at the offline at the location, then you need to plan for a travel, hotels, get ready, go on set, and then you have to see that what session is being taken care of. So the time, the effort, the money, the quality, everything is being put onto risk to attend the sessions. Rather than doing an online, we are making use of time, and I'm sitting at Bhopal and I'm still able to take the session. So that's the beauty of the virtual sessions or virtual clinical trials, which is your clinical trials, decentralized clinical trials. Now, there are three types of clinical trials. I have classified it. First is fully centralized. Fully centralized. Now, all the clinical trials subject have to come to sites to take a drug, to give a samples, to enter the data, to give the consent, to give the advertisement, whatever it is, patient have to travel to the site. So that's our fully centralized, which is traditional. Now, we are going slowly step by step to one mode, which is called as hybrid. Now, for example, some of the assessments, some of the activities could have been done on telephone visits, could have been done virtually. And some of the visits, the patient have to travel, and that is called as hybrid. So there are telephonic contacts, telephonic visits, telemedicine visits. There are some visits where patients have to come because there might be some assessments which are very carefully considered by the investigator. Those kind of assessment has to be conducted at the site. Now, the combination of a site-centric and virtual is considered as hybrid. So, and last one is you are fully decentralized. Now, patient does not need to meet investigator. It's all the meetings are being done virtually, starting from enrollment of subject, taking the consent, taking the study drug, and entering the data into the trials, giving the lab samples to the local sites, and reporting the adverse events using the ePros, patient report outcomes, e-diaries, and also all the data electronically is transferred by using wearables. Now, this is what you call it as fully centralized. Now, I think people are using hybrid modes and also sometimes fully decentralized. But fully centralized, we are moving ahead now. The future is very simple, that all the clinical trials move from the centralized to hybrid or fully centralized or fully decentralized. Now, fully centralized, so it's a simple thing. It's a complex trial procedures. And the screening procedures will be very complex. Cell therapies and imagings are all conducted through the hospitals or academic research centers. So this is your fully central. And hybrid is, they are less complex trials. And there are some visits which are required, such as injections or X-rays or ECGs, but not necessarily to the hospital also. To the beside the patient home, exactly the local lab also we can consider. So why are we asking the patient to travel 150 kilometers to conduct into clinical trials? Why can't a patient just immediately go to the next lab and take the sample? Why can't a patient get a reminders to the phone saying that your cab is booked? And Uber cab comes into the home of the patient, and the patient takes the cab, goes to lab, and Uber cabs get dropped off. And all the data is from the local lab is being pushed to the investigator. Why can't we do it? Answer is we can do it. That's how the decentralized clinical trial came into picture. And the future is very simple, that everything will be decentralized by using the technology along with the clinical knowledge, along with the regulation knowledge. Now, last one, fully centralized, all the trial procedures are conducted virtually. So not needed, that patient has to come. So now if you go and see that in I think 10 years back, if someone used to say that if you want to do a shopping, you have to go to a shopping mall. For going shopping mall, you have to get ready, go on car, get into traffic, and then go and enjoy the shopping. But now people does not want to enjoy that shopping anymore. Everything is online, and you go and have a phone on it and tap it. Okay, this XYZ is needed, put it in bucket, and then go on payment. So you don't need to go and purchase and go and do a shopping at the offline sites rather than doing on the phone. So which is fully centralized or decentralized trials. Now, this picture shows so clear that what is decentralized clinical trial and illustrations how the clinical trial is being conducted. Now, let's take it up point by point how it is being done. So the first one is your drug manufacturer. So the drug manufacturer manufactures the drug. So he gives the drug which has to be taken into the patients, and it goes and transported to the hospitals, study centers. The study centers, it goes and it is being maintained at the study centers. From the study centers, all the drugs are being drone-based dispensed to the patient. Drone-based dispensed to the patient. Or the drugs are being directly sent to the patients. So patient does not need to wait for the drug. Very clear. Patient will get all the drugs from the hospital. Now, patient will have access to internet connections. Patient will have access to the internet connections. And patient will be given a tablet or mobile app to enter the data. Like say, for example, patient is being asked questions. Have you taken a drug? Yes or no? If you say yes, the next question, what time the drug was being taken? How much water you have consumed? Have you got any adverse events? What are your vital signs? What is your blood pressure? Or what is your pulse rate? What is your XYZ values? So all the values, patient is directly entering into the mobile with the help of one powerful tool, which is internet connection. And now patient also will have wearable monitors. Like say, for example, I'm wearing a watch. So now this watch can monitor my blood pressure, ECG, X-ray, XYZ, everything. And this wearable is directly connected to my central secured system. So now patient is having direct access to the internet and app base to enter the data by the patient only. Patient will also have the wearable, which is just a watch or just a wearable, which can collect the data from the patient about the information of vital signs or ECGs or XYZ. And patient, all this information, including this data which is being entered by the patient and also the wearable data, all the data is being sent to your secured central database. So it's directly connected. All data which is being entered by the system, which patient is entering, and wearable information is directly sent to the secure database. Now, patient, if patient wants to speak to the doctor or investigator, not necessary, patient will not come to the study center. Patient will go immediately near hospital doctor, which is local MD, and he can directly take a local lab values, wherein he can give this data to directly to the central database. So patient is not going and working into the study coordination. It's directly going into a place. Can you give 1 minute, please? Okay, so now patient directly goes and provides this information directly to the central database from the local lab. And doctor also will provide the information to directly the secure database. Now, the patient is providing the information of data. Patient is providing the information of wearable monitors. Patient is directly going to the local MD, and doctor is providing the information to the secure database. Patient is directly going to local lab, and local lab data is also being given into the secure database. Now, there is no information which is required by the study coordination centers, because patient himself has added so much value into the clinical trial by taking the drugs, by giving the data, by providing the variables, by providing the local MD data, by providing the local lab data. Now, this makes us so much easy to conduct the clinical trial. And this is how the flow of decentralized clinical trial happens in real time. So this is so beautiful illustrations that how a decentralized clinical trial marks us, reduced timeline, improved efficacy, and reduced pricing. Now, types of decentralized clinical trial already have spoken: hybrid, a combination of site-based and virtual trial is hybrid. Fully remote, which is fully decentralized, where patient does not need for any kind of assessments to be performed at the hospitals. And what are the different tools we use for conducting the decentralized clinical trial? So starting from enrollment, let's take it as enrollment. If a patient wants to get enrolled, he calls to a toll-free number. And this process is called as IVRS. So this technology is called as IVRS technology, where the patient directly calls to a toll-free number and that pushes into the trial subjects. So this is first one. The second one, once the subject is enrolled, he has to sign the consent form. The e-consent is the second one. The e-consent is the second one, which the patient directly switch on the camera and the investigator switch on the camera. Investigator start explaining about the consent form. This is the study, and this is the objective, this is the design, this is the number of subjects, these are statistics, and this is inclusion criteria, exclusion criteria, risks, benefits, and this is the compensation, this is the payment, this is the investigator, this is the contact details. An investigator directly signs a soft copy, subject directly signs a soft copy. E-consent. Now, once the subject has passed, or once the subject has given the consent, then you go for a telemedicine. So wherein subject takes the medication after talking to the doctor. For everything, he just take a Zoom call or a WhatsApp call or whatever it is, which is documented evidence where telemedicine can be used. And the home visits by the CRCs and centralized data collection systems and mobile devices and variables like COAs, the clinical outcome assessments, and PROS. So which is patient report outcome. So these are very, very powerful tools like variables like a watch, which can give accurate efficacy that patient is having this XYZ data. This is the value changes we've been happening. Patient interactive portals. Now say for example, patient got SAE. Now patient does not know really this SAE is related or not related. Now patient can just go to a chatbot, like for example, ChatGPT, chatbot. So patient will type saying that, hello, I got an SAE. So then the system will ask, what type of SAE? So then we will type saying that SAE is heart attack. So then system will tell, okay, when you took drug, what drug you took, what are the other medications you took. So it's a chatbot. It's a patient interactive portal, how you can do it. And the next one, IPM steady supply logistics, which is so good that we are using QR codes or blockchain technologies. Now, day in and day out, we use PhonePays. Day in and day out, we use QR codes to participate into any of the works. Now, how are we going to use these QR codes from the manufacturing to the patient? Now, whether the manufacturer has sent the right medications, whether it was being stored in right temperature and monitoring conditions or moisture conditions, whether the patient has received the sealed medications or not. How do we know? So just a QR code, scan it, and then you will come to know that which was the system which was being used and how it was being collected and how it was being delivered, which is called as supply chain management. So IVRS, RTSMs, and then telemedicines, e-consents, e-pros, and then mobile devices, patient interactive portals, chat GPTs, so many things are there to conduct the decentralized clinical trial. So now open your minds, saying that technology has made so many easy things that just that we need to learn as much as technology to reduce the time and to improve the quality and improve the efficiency. And the best molecule has to hit the market. How best molecule can hit the market with reduced timeline. So COVID has taught us so many stories. One of the biggest stories is we can't have more days for bringing a molecule, but we can't take shortcuts. So now the decentralized clinical trials is so good that how we can do the clinical trials. Now, what are the benefits? What are the benefits? First benefit for patient. So patient engagement. the withdrawal of patient will be very, 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 very less, because you are making the patient not to go outside of a home. He can sit at the home, all the medications are coming, all the variables are coming, all the inclusion of the patient centricity, understanding that patient will feel that it's my trial. I'm even participating and every question is being asked to me only. So system is asking, saying that, have you taken the drug? Alarms are coming. Cabs is automatically booked. You are being taken into the local sites. So patient centricity is so much high that the patient access is more and less burden on the patient that you need to travel. Say, for example, if you want to travel for 100 kilometers, it's very challenging for me because it is a burden for me to get ready, to wear blazer, to take my car or to take flight. But this all will reduce if you are conducting a clinical trial in decentralized way. So fits patient daily lives. So you don't need to change your schedule, saying that, okay, today we have to go to site and we have to spend time, doctor, we have to wait to see him and all those things. And increased patient education, retention of the patient, engagement of patient. The biggest challenge in clinical trial, which we are never speaking about it, is the education of patient and retention. Patient feels that it's my trial, I have to participate. So that's where you do a decentralized clinical trial. And improved safety and efficacy, because all things are connected with technology. Any patient says that I got an adverse event, immediately investigator can send one more doctor to the patients. Increased speed of trial, increased data accuracy, standardization, and boost the communication between all parties, including the patient, sponsor, investigator, IRB, regulatory bodies. Regulatory bodies also insisting us to conduct the clinical trial with respect to DCT, but the regulations have to be followed without deviating the regulations and the rights and safety and well-being and the confidentiality and the patient-related information and the efficacies and safeties of the patients are being not compromised. Because regulations are very clearly saying that ethics or confidentiality or the safety and the efficacy and the quality of the data or rights and safety and well-being of trial subjects should not be compromised. But how can we use our technologies, making sure that all these terms are being met and we are reducing the time for the drug to the market, and how we can get these drugs into market is being done accordingly. I think that was my last slide, which was interesting story about the decentralized trials. And I hope I was on top of time because I was having my clock ticking. So, but I'm open for one or two questions if we have time. I think Rashmi can, Rashmi, I hope I have taken exact time, and I hope a couple of photos are being taken for this session, Rashmi, if
Yes,
possible.
there are photos being taken, the recording is going on, and you were bang on time.
So thank you, because I was worried about the time, because I thought I'll give 2 minutes of time for any questions, and my slides I'll share it in short time, so that you can share with the people for this.
Yes.
Yes.
So we do have actually participants. We have participants from Pakistan as well who specifically requested your presentation. So just letting you know, I'll give the audience a few seconds to ask any questions if they have.
Because one question at least I can take it up, Rashmi, if you allow me to take one question, I think.
Yes, sure. I'm just waiting to see if they have any questions.
So I hope the session was good, and I hope I'll get a feedback also on this session, hopefully.
Yeah, I'm sure we have our esteemed panelists also right now with us, and I think it was wonderful. Okay, so one question. Mostly, I'm getting requests for your presentation. Actually,
I'll give the presentation. And I know that other speakers are waiting, and David is waiting. So I thought I'll complete my session quickly.
No worries, no worries. So, Mujib, what do you see as the future? Is decentralized clinical trials the future? Is remote data capture the future? Because we are talking about wearable devices. In fact, even my founder, AKT's founder, Aditya, was talking about us trying to incorporate wearables, making an Internet of Things kind of an arrangement. So, do you think that's the future?
Yeah, that's definitely the future, Rashmi. It might take time. We might be a little bit adamant to understand the technology, but people have got changed. If you see directly 15 years back, how many of us thought we'll use phones?
Right.
Mobiles, technology. But now I think youngsters are using so good at the technology and they know more about it. They are using chat GPTs, they are using multiple technologies. The only challenge which we have, Rashmi, is technology with regulations. Is something which we need to see, and future is about decentralized. No doubt about it. Technology, 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 decentralized, decentralized, decentralized. That's it.
And that is going to make clinical trials more easier and
Yes.
reach the patients more easier. I think we get a better patient pool, we get more patient pool, and we also had a session on patient engagement. I think it'll also improve patient engagement.
Yeah, so I think that point already been added, that how much you make patient happy, he will continue into your trial. So the engagement and the withdrawal of the patient will reduce. So that's a most important difficult point which we are not at all discussing about anyone. So
Yeah.
that how patient you can engage and how can you reduce the withdrawal of the patient from the trials.
Great, perfect. Thank you so much, Mujibji. And if anybody has any questions, please put it through. I will pass it on to Mr. Mujib, and he has very graciously agreed to share the PPT, so it will be shared. I have so many. I have already like 15 requests for your presentation. So yeah, we're going to take your help there.
Thank you, Rashmi. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you so much. All right, so next up we have Mr. David. Hi, David. Very early for you. Good morning.
Hello. Good afternoon. Good evening.
Thank you so much, David, for taking the time and agreeing to speak with us, take up a session so early in the morning.
Happy to be here.
So, David, we have a lot of participants currently seeing you. We are also live on Facebook and YouTube currently. So before we begin, I'd like to give a brief introduction about David. David is the co-founder and CEO of TAMP, the managing director at AKT Health US Boston office, and TAMP is also a partner for AKT Health. He is a seasoned healthcare innovator serving as the CEO and co-founder of TAMP and the managing director of AKT Health. His career has been dedicated to conquering the formidable challenges within the healthcare industry and driving digital health transformation. At TAMP, his mission is to revolutionize patient care by enabling doctors to take the lead in digital health innovation and fostering patient engagement in adopting these technologies. In a complex healthcare landscape, he empowers healthcare institutions to upskill doctors, engage patients, and adopt digital health technologies, creating a trusted network marketplace where innovative solutions meet the needs of doctors and patients. Our pioneering blue ocean approach and innovative business model set us apart in driving transformative change in healthcare. This is along with AKT Health. Simultaneously, as the manager of AKT Health, he partners with life sciences companies and health systems to develop market-leading strategies for long-term performance, growth, and sustainability. He leverages his expertise in healthcare and technology and provides various services in the US market currently. David has an extensive background, which includes leadership roles in Fortune 100 Management and Indiana University Medical Center service as a US infantry officer, and degrees from prestigious institutions like Harvard, Indiana University, and the University of Phoenix. He has founded and contributed to the growth of 10 startups with successful exits valuing up to 40 million US dollars. For over a decade, he has been mentor, advisor, and angel investor in the tech startup ecosystem, particularly in Asia. Additionally, he serves as an adjunct professor guiding business MBA students in China and has traveled to over 45 countries. His expertise extends to emerging and transformative technologies, and he has spearheaded the global Innova Hub, advancing innovative solutions. He's not only a dedicated healthcare professional, but also a proud husband and a father, a philanthropist, and a collector of contemporary art. He has an affinity for documentaries, independent films, and international movies, and his skills encompass the pharmaceutical industry. Thank you so much, David. I will pass on the host privileges to you, so you'll be able to share your screen.
Okay, thank you, Rashmi, for that wonderful introduction. I do truly appreciate that. Let me share my screen. Can you see only the slides, or can you see the presenter view?
I think I see the presenter view. I also see a slide on the right.
Oh, okay. Let me see if I can. Okay, yeah, I guess I cannot get out of there. Okay.
Yeah, that's all right. I think it is clear enough. It's all right.
Okay, that's fine. So let's get into the FDA guidance. I'm going to be speaking from perspective here in the United States, again on decentralized clinical trials, as Professor Sayek so eloquently gave his presentation. So I will follow on that. So welcome, and we will look at some of the importance of FDA guidance in decentralized clinical trials, DCTs, and other aspects as well. Professor Sayek had given us a very good definition of decentralized clinical trials. Historically, in the past few years, it's focused more on telemedicine. Now we are seeing mobile, local healthcare providers. We're seeing digital health technologies because of the 6 Ds of exponential thinking. So they're becoming smaller. Devices are becoming smaller. They're becoming less expensive. They are disrupting. They're deceiving. They're digitizing. So these are the 6 Ds. They're also demonetizing, becoming less and less expensive, dematerializing, smaller and smaller. So we're democratizing these types of clinical trials around the world. Sometimes we will have complete virtual. Other times it may be a hybrid where you're coming in, adding wearables, things like that, and then you are performing the rest remotely in home. Here in America, we have over 40 million Americans that live over 2 hours from a doctor. So it's very important to include decentralized clinical trials here in the United States and globally, and especially now, including becoming more inclusive. Diversity is very important. I'll talk a little more about that later. There are key milestones in the evolution, include the adoption of electronic data capture, remote monitoring, and patient-reported outcomes. So there are platforms out there where patients can now self-report, such as Impact Health. Patients can select the symptom severity, pain severity from 1 to 10. Those can be reviewed, analyzed by their doctor, by their physician, and then say their medication can be adjusted remotely without having to drive in, maybe an hour, 2 hours, park, wait several hours just to perform one test and then to go back home. So this can all be done continuously 24/7, 365. It makes decentralized clinical trials much more accessible. It's more efficient. It streamlines the whole process, and it is convenient to the participants, to the sites that are performing the clinical trials. Now, the FDA has issued guidance to encourage clinical trials to include diverse populations. This has not been mandated yet. However, this is something that you will want to consider Are you being inclusive, equitable? Are you addressing disparities, because the FDA is concerned about health disparities and underrepresentation of certain racial and ethnic groups in clinical trials, and then the data analysis from those trials to assess the safety and effectiveness of the medical products. If this is not performed, they will insist on adding additional labeling to note that. So you want to also manage logistics across disparate locations. Of course, this is global world, it's digitized. We have healthcare being provided, maybe a patient in one country now, a doctor in another country, third-party payer in another country, medical devices or pharmaceuticals coming from other countries. So it's very important to plan the decentralization and to be meticulous about this across global locations. So this is something that we want to keep in mind. And now with the digital health technologies, even more important, how we're collecting the data, how we're engaging patients across cultures, across borders. Just give you an example of some of the FDA cleared algorithms by specialty. There's about 520. We have about 350,000 digital health apps download that are currently out there. About 5% have been FDA approved. We have 5 million downloads a day. So this is something that is, of course, growing and expanding. Our patients ready for it, our doctors ready for it. There's been survey after survey, Rock Health and others showing 80, 90% saying they've either used the technology, they're ready to use it, they see the value of using these types of technologies, the doctors, the patients, the healthcare system, those performing decentralized clinical trials, the pharmaceutical companies now investing heavily, creating divisions and business units related and centered around digital health technology. So again, I can't emphasize enough, including diversity. 76% of participants are white. So this is not giving us a good, we're not capturing good data, right, from all diverse races and ethnicities around the world. So we're looking for a number of different ways to access. And sometimes they have to be very creative, very innovative. There are groups out there attempting to access patients here in the United States through their communities, like through community centers, through even churches. There are groups reaching out to like Merck and American Lung Association and others, working through Black churches, working through barber shops and hair salons. Even there are groups out there. There are some suggestions of working through rural fire stations in America. There, as I mentioned, 40 million remote Americans. Some don't have access to healthcare. They're getting it through their ambulance, right? The EMTs that work for the ambulance company, the emergency medical technicians, and some have it suggested even through rural fire stations. Many of the small towns in America may only have a fire station. That's kind of like acts as their community center in these very small towns with only maybe a few thousand people. We want to be aware of risk-based monitoring to identify and manage risks in the clinical trials. This can save us sometimes many months or years and millions of dollars. It can mean success or failure to the decentralized clinical trials. So there are ongoing developments in RBM tools that aim to enhance efficiency and compliance, risk-based monitoring systems used for surveillance and residual security risks. There are companies out there that can assist you in this, such as AKT Health right here, and Impact Health and others. Source data verification ensures the accuracy and reliability of the trial data. On-site challenges are that traditional SDV methods are resource intensive. Decentralized clinical trials can offer innovative approaches. So we always suggest, engage the US FDA and other FDAs in other countries as well, very early. There were companies that were kind of decertified. They got certification. They were decertified based on their artificial intelligence algorithm because the algorithm changed. So maybe there was some miscommunication. So it's very important, especially with emerging technologies, to bring the FDA in early and often, build awareness about these technologies because they cannot keep up on each and every technology that's out there. We've seen some 700 new AI, ML, machine learning enabled devices showing up. The latest update added a total of 171 devices. So, in the future, will FDA need AI to police the AI, perhaps? How can they monitor all of these algorithms when we have hundreds, thousands, even millions? Now, there's something called the being FDA registered. You'll see this on a lot of marketing materials. This only means that somebody went to the FDA site and registered their product or service or experience. Now we have experiences with extended reality, virtual reality, medical device, or other devices. So, they've registered it, but it's not certified. And you will see these kind of fake looking certificates out there. So be careful on those. It's kind of misrepresents, being certified, saying, okay, I have a registration certificate. Now, training and development, we like to say learning and development is very important. We've been a digital upskilling company for many years of doctors and patients. So now, it's very important, the workforce of the future for pharmaceutical companies, biotech companies, medical device companies, to upskill their employees and the patients and the doctors in digital health technologies. The FDA also has internal and external programs for digital health technologies, DHTs as well. So there are workshops or events that you can look for. DCT design considerations, you want to select suitable locations, as we talked about. Record keeping, again, there are companies like AKT Health that can assist with this, Impact Health. Location considerations, we now want to consider, it's always about accessibility, identify a target population, but then ensure not only accessible to the site, now are it accessible via the technology? Does somebody have the right Wi-Fi connections, high-speed connections? Are they able to connect via, for video conferencing? And we want to be aware of the compliance and regulatory and ethical standards. Ensure that chosen locations comply with local and international regulations. So again, now we have many decentralized clinical trials being done across borders. We want to ensure proper record keeping, utilize electronic data capture or EDC, ensure the systems are compliant with regulations such as HIPAA, GDPR, and standard documentation procedures should be developed, SOPs, regular audits and data quality checks, and ensure data security and confidentiality. We want to be aware of data variability can influence trial outcomes. Strategies to minimize this are crucial. Engage, again, the FDA for guidance on managing variability, especially in non-inferiority trials, addressing data variabilities, and engaging the FDA for guidance on DCTs, especially in these non-inferiority trials. Standardize procedures, develop a training and certification program, ensure robust data management systems, patient stratification and selection criteria, employ stringent patient selection criteria, ensure homogeneity in the study population, conduct pilot studies, and then perform regular audits and quality checks. remote clinical trial visits and activities. Let me just jump to the case. Here's a few case studies. Baby scripts is one. Some of these are being used for healthcare delivery, others in decentralized clinical trials. This is a mobile prenatal care platform helping maternal healthcare providers manage pregnancies. 28 Health, Hazel Health, Eleanor Health, virtual hybrid care delivery for Medicaid enrollees. And we have REMA, startup equips community health guides AI-powered insights to engage high-risk Medicaid. So Medicaid is for lower socioeconomic status patients here in the United States. We have Medicare and Medicaid. So Medicare is for senior citizens, and Medicaid is for those in the lower socioeconomic status. Again, I had talked about accessing patients through their communities, through even barbershops, nail salons. They're looking for any way to get patients into these clinical trials. Live Chair Health is doing that. So it's just amazing the innovative thinking, the creative thinking. There's Socially Determined and NUNA, which is a value-based arrangements used to power models that optimize risk-sharing arrangements. Now, I wanted to just note the Veterans Healthcare Administration. A lot of people don't realize it's the largest healthcare system in the United States, maybe in the world. There are 1,321 healthcare facilities, including 172 VA medical centers, 1,138 outpatient sites. So these are a great opportunity. The American Medical Association and the Digital Medical Society are working with the VA. We have another call with them. We'll be talking to them in January, and we're going through government approval process for Department of Defense. So if you would like more information about how to do that, let me know. I'm happy to help. And the doctor-patient relationship is key. So this is the gap. You know, we have all this technology, all these people, stakeholders on both sides. It comes down to the doctor and patient relationship. So the patients would hear, they will listen to what their doctor has to say. The doctor is listening to what the patient has to say. So I will conclude here just to summarize. Early engagement with the FDA, build awareness with them. It's about human relationships. Again, the doctor, the patient, and all stakeholders. Have proper planning, assess your risks, be inclusive, diverse, equitable, have innovative thinking, be aware of how you're handling the data or contract that out to a company that can do it, and establish learning and development. So for the road ahead, I'd like to call for international cooperation. Again, we are working across borders, so we need international regulations in addition to working with the local countries, local cultures, and local regulations. And I will finish there. Thank you.
Thank you so much, David. I think it was a very nice follow-up from Mujib's session. I think I like a nice continuation. I'll give the audience a few seconds if they have any questions. Yeah. So David, I again have request for sharing the presentation if you would allow.
Yes, absolutely.
Sure,
I'd
great.
love to.
Great, perfect. Thank you. As of now, that's the only request. I will request the
Okay.
audience if they have any. Oh, okay. There is one question, David. How is digital clinical trial different from DCTs? How's DCTs different from digital clinical trials?
Yeah, so this is just an initialism. So we have an acronym. Acronyms will, a lot of people will call initialism an acronym, but it needs to spell out a word like NOW, National Organization for Women. DCT are the initials. So it's called an initialism, decentralized clinical trials. And, as I mentioned with the 6Ds of exponential thinking, we have the convergence of technologies that now makes this possible. It really wasn't possible. We saw during COVID, we saw 125,000% increase in telehealth use. And again, a lot of these devices are becoming smaller and smaller, less expensive. We can do a lot of in-home monitoring, diagnostics, and things that we couldn't do before. But yeah, it's DCT, decentralized clinical trials. Thank you.
Meaning to say decentralized clinical trial can be used synonymously with digital clinical trials. Is that? So the question was, how is digital clinical trial different from decentralized clinical trial? Are these two different things or is it the same?
Oh, yes. So you can have the centralized, so you can have clinical trials without the remote, kind of the traditional, right? You're going in, everything's manual. Maybe it's even being done on paper. You're going to a site, having all the tests performed. As I mentioned, you got to drive in, maybe several hours, wait several hours, have someone do one, small test, then you drive back home several hours. Now you can, this might be a hybrid. So you might have centralized and decentralized. So decentralized, you're in your home, like we call hospitals without walls, we're talking about now, healthcare at home. So you can be at home and you are being monitored. The physician and the clinical trial folks will be analyzing the data, and then the doctor can remotely adjust. Like say you're on 5 milligrams and you need to be there, monitoring you, and they say, okay, you need to, be reduced to 3 milligrams. And you don't need to come in and spend hours and hours and hours. And there may be a hybrid. Maybe you'll come in once, and then you'll be monitored maybe for several weeks. So it could be a hybrid. Yeah, but there's still a lot that are going on now without the decentralized aspect, right? They're just being done centralized. You just come in and that's it.
Got it. I hope that answers the audience's question. And thank you so much, David, for the time today.
Thank you. It's been a joy.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye. Okay, so up next, we have Soumya Agarwal from our partner, AKT Health Partner, Sartara. Hi, Soumya, I hope you can hear us.
Hi, good morning. Yes, I can.
Hi, good morning. Thank you so much for taking the time early in the morning to be a part of our summit.
Yeah, it was my pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. So Soumya, I'll just introduce you to the audience and then you can take it from there. Soumya Agarwal is the product manager at Sartara. She's a product owner who has spent the last 15 years working on life sciences software development with a focus on eCTD technology. She's a customer-focused professional with expertise in the area of quality and validation management, SDLC management, requirements gathering, and UI/UX design. In addition to Soumya's extensive software experience, she has worked with numerous health authorities to help define, build, and implement solutions that assist in the overall submission process. Soumya has held positions at Sartara, Synchrogenics, and HCL Technologies, where she has demonstrated strong leadership skills and taken various technology innovations to completion. So Soumya, I'll just pass you the host privileges. You should be able to share your screen now.
All right. Thank you, Rashmi, for the introduction. All right. Okay. Did that work?
Yes, we can see your screen.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. All right. good morning, good evening, and good afternoon, depending on where you're attending this session from. As Rashmi just said, my name is Soumya Agarwal, and I'm product owner for Global Summit here at Satara. And today, I'll be discussing some of the challenges that we face as an industry for ACTD submissions and how we can overcome those. So for my agenda for today, we're going to discuss the challenges. I'm going to demonstrate some of the solutions which technologies like Global Summit can help you with. And then I'll definitely be happy to answer any Q&A that might be there. So as we all know, are you able to see everything here, Rashmi?
Yes, challenges ECD.
Okay, all right, cool. So as we all know that when it comes to submitting to different agencies, mostly the challenges that we face are about being compliant. Are we following the latest validation criteria? And how every regulatory agency is having their unique requirements, which adds to the complexity for us as an industry and how we have to adhere to them. We have to make sure that we are not having any compliance issues. We are not having a risk of rejection. We are doing our risk analysis correctly. So along the same lines today, I'm going to use some of the examples of the problems that we face and also how technology can help us to solve some of those. So the first one that we hear from a lot of our partners in pharmaceuticals is there are these multiple regions that they want to submit to and acquire a marketplace in for their drug. But that means they need to adhere to different regional requirements. And the problem that arises there is copying that data over different regions in the ACTD structure and also like mapping the documents for consistencies and making sure that everything is aligning for each region and submitting to that different market that they're trying to target. Here at Global Summit, we have a feature called cloning, which solves that problem and makes submitting to multiple regions easier for you. And how that's done is you either can clone the current state, which means like any life cycle that happened within your submission, you can just have your current documents cloned, or you can clone your sequence or submission that you want in your new application. And that just copies the files for you between regions, but it's just not a copy. It's mapping the documents how it's needed in the region that you are selecting. So for example, you're going from US to EU and you want to submit to both regions. You can, when you choose EU, all your STFs become your node extensions. So your study tagging files are automatically mapped to be node extensions. So 80 to 90% of your submission gets ready within a couple of minutes with simple clicks, and you don't have to spend the time to create a submission for EU from scratch and you can submit to an European agency much quicker because of having a submission that's already in a pretty ready state and 80 to 90% done, and you just need to have your regional information added in. So that's how we can easily solve this problem of submitting to multiple regions and have some time saving along the lines. The next one is case report forms. So case report forms are usually not that talked about as a problem, But I think this is a great example where we spend a lot of time because there are studies done across a lot of sites, and depending on your drug site, there might be thousands to hundreds and thousands, as we have seen in submissions across over years. CRFs, right? So your case study reports are there for sites. And if you see in my example here, I have like 2 sites called 101 and one is called NA. And then you don't have to worry about mapping the site ID and then having the correct CRFs. All you have to do is like browse your CRF folder, and the site IDs and the documents, all the reports are automatically added. So what that does for the publishing team involved is they don't have to add the sites one by one. They don't have to add the reports one by one. And there is less chance of human error from missing a report or adding it to the wrong site, because you're just browsing a folder and all the related information just gets added. So it's a huge time saver again. And also there is the mapping that comes to for each site is avoided. Like you don't have to really enter the site information, and it just gets added. So there is definitely a very big benefit in bulk importing case report forms using this feature. The next one is study tagging files. So now study tagging files is a talked about feature because of the complexity. And as we know, a lot of regions do need study tagging files, but they are complex. There is a lot of file tags that need to be mapped, and they need to be in compliance to make sure that your submission is not rejected. So what we do here to make this simple for our clients and customer base is we ask you for simple informations like your study IDs, your study titles, and also you add your documents based on your file tags, and we just generate the STF for you. You don't have to really do the mapping yourself, and that way you're always compliant to the latest valid values. You don't have to really worry about if the STF is generated as per the expected guidance, because the software is automatically generating it for you. So there's just a lot of benefit that comes with very simple information entering and putting the right documents as per the file tags, but not really needing to map them in the XML. So it doesn't need that advanced technical knowledge firsthand, and you can simply use the software interface to create your STFs. The next one is about migrations. So we have a lot of new clients and customers, and the first question that we are asked often is about migration. How long is the migration going to be? The problem would be on the processing time, and it can be time consuming. And what kind of technical knowledge do we need to be able to have a migration from our legacy platform? So believe it or not, but as you see from my screenshot, it's very simple interface built in with all that feedback from our users over the years. So it's very simple, like your SharePoint website or your Windows Explorer. You just upload documents and you use the processing icon on the screen to process your submission. And typically a migration project, as we have heard, usually takes months or weeks, but depending on the size of the submissions that you're migrating, depending on the data that you're bringing. It's hours to days, and I'm going days where you have like millions of links and bookmarks, and you're talking about hundreds and thousands of submissions. But otherwise, the technology has been upscaled and built, keeping in mind that the processing should be fast so that the submission is readily available for the next steps that you want to take on it and build up on your submission when you bring it into the system, and not have to wait long and miss any deadlines because of any kind of data transfer or anything. So yeah, it is pretty easy. The next one, actually next two slides are more about the time saving between the reviewing and the publishing team. And so the first one that we'll discuss here is about the application errors. Here, I'm going to highlight benefit of live validation. So it's very similar to how when we write in our Word and we have a spelling error and gives a red squirrely line and we can instantly correct it, right? So imagine if we didn't have that and we had to basically check for all our spellings at the end or have a cross review to make sure everything is correct. So live validation has been built with a similar thought process that the publisher that's building the submission, if an instant feedback is provided to them, then a lot of back and forth can be avoided and last minute fixes can be avoided. So here in my example, as you can see, I added a form under a wrong section. A 356H form should typically go under form section. So I have a error instantly showing, telling me that it's not in the correct location. And it was an error on my part, like I just was dragging and I dragged it on the wrong section and I can instantly correct it. And there are other examples where I might not be able to correct it because there's a team involved, but at least I know about that error and we can work as a team and I can go to my colleagues and figure out a solution quicker than knowing the reports at the end. We do have the reports at the end as well, but this just makes the whole review process much more quicker because you get the information on the validation errors as per the agency you are submitting on the go. It's instant feedback on what might need to be corrected. And yeah, if there are no errors, of course, no errors are going to show, but otherwise you see what's wrong. And as per the guidance, you can instantly fix that. And the second thing is about QC, right? So document QC when you're creating a submission usually is very time consuming. There are a number of reviews and sometimes there are hundreds of bookmarks and hyperlinks that reviewing team has to go through and make sure that everything is correct. So the problem that poses is usually user fatigue and the compilation of large amount of bookmarks, hyperlinks, and document metadata. So for that, cross-check is actually one of our client's favorite feature because it gives a grid view, it gives it on submission level, it gives it on section level, and it gives it on document level. And what that does is it gives you a view of all the metadata that's involved within that document at bookmark, hyperlink level, and it kind of tells you if there are quality issues or not, and you can really choose what you want to review. So if you're reviewing quality issues, you can even filter and sort on those, or if you want to review certain kind of metadata, and it's just a grid view and you can instantly correct almost 80% of the issues within the software in the grid. And you see what your source is, destination is, without even clicking back and forth between the documents. So it just becomes very easy, and you don't have to do a lot of back and forth. And also between reviewing and publishing team, it saves a lot of time, because you can take a quick glance on what you built before you submit to a reviewing team and fix any obvious issues, rather than waiting for a feedback cycle to happen. So overall, it cuts down on your submission building time a lot, and helps you build a more compliant submission. So I'd like to give a quick overview of what we discussed. So as we just discussed, some of the problems and solutions that technology can offer. So 80% of the time is actually spent compiling ECTD submission, and we here at Global Summit using Publish are definitely trying to streamline that process by giving you validation errors in real time. You can do multiple document uploads, update bookmarks and hyperlinks for any corrections that need to happen. And the processing is within minutes. So when you publish a submission, it's within minutes, readily available for your review. So it just helps in the overall submission lifecycle, and also saves a lot of time. And being web-based, it also gives you access on the go to do a lot of things that you need to do, especially like reviews. That's where I think it's most used on the go. So yeah. And my last slide is actually about Satara and how Global Summit is playing a role here. So I'll just quickly go through Satara's mission and vision. So Satara is accelerating medicines to the patients by providing an end-to-end platform, and Global Summit comes towards very end of the life cycle here, where you're really having all those clinical studies done and all those regional information and everything collected, and building a submission where you have to follow the guidance of certain sort depending on the agency. And we're trying to really empower our clients, our partners, by building a technology where they can really save time and still build a successful submission that's validated as per their requirements for a certain region that they aim to submit to. So that's all I have for today, and I'll open the floor. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Soumya, for the insights on our product Global Summit. Let's wait for a few seconds for the audience to ask any questions that they might have.
Sure.
Okay, so Soumya, one question is, which are the regulatory bodies to which submissions can be done using Global Summit?
So that's a long list, but I'll go over some of the most important ones. Like, so we have US, EU, Canada, Japan, China, Australia, and Saudi Arabia. So those are some of the top ones that Global Summit can be used to submit to.
Okay, well, that is quite extensive. Another question is either currently or in the future moving forward, will AI be incorporated into Global Summit?
So yeah, it is actually already there in some aspects of Global Summit, and we are looking into making it some more advances in that, especially around helping enhance our search tool a little bit more on AI aspect, just because then you can really collaborate documents between applications and submissions because of and you can also build up the documents. So, but yeah, it is already something that we are considering, and it is already part in like the study time file example I gave. We take very minimal information from the users to create that. And it's automatically done, but yeah, we are definitely looking at more evidence to incorporate that.
Great. Yeah, I think anyways, that is the way forward. Thank you so much, Soumya. Another question, would you be comfortable sharing the slides? But I think there is information available already online for them to access.
Yeah, there is information available online, but yeah, if needed, I'll be happy to share.
Sure. I'll let you know. So attendees, if any of you particularly need the slides, you can please drop in your email IDs in the Q&A box, and we'll get that done for you. Thank you so much, Soumya, for taking the time. It was a wonderful, wonderful session, and it's an honor to have you as a part of the summit today.
It was my pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Okay, so up next, after a very interesting session, we have Dr. Prasoon Mishra as the next speaker. He is the founding president of the American Association for Precision Medicine. Dr. Prasoon Mishra is a leading life science technology and healthcare thought leader and an impact investor. He chairs the World Investors and Entrepreneurs Society, an investment collective with a good footprint, and he's also co-leading the efforts to form Global Sustainability Impact Fund, the GSIF. He's a renowned scientist with numerous publications and patents to his credit, and has contributed to developing several drugs and combinations and trials and approved. During his career, he has served at several prestigious institutions, including the pharma giant Genentech, Roche, Rutgers University, National Cancer Institute, National Institute of Health, US Department of Health and Human Services, and the US government. His research work has been recognized globally with over 40 prestigious awards and 50 keynote talks, and invited lectureships and candidacy for most prestigious Trans NIH Earl Stedman Investigator Tenure Track position. He's also a recipient of 2 NCI Directors Innovations Awards, one from Dr. Harold Swamis, the Nobel laureate. So we welcome Dr. Prasoon Mishra to the session today. We have a video that we're going to play on his behalf for his session, which I will be doing right away.
So yeah, as as it was mentioned, actually, the title of the talk is "Precision Medicine: The Way Forward," and basically, I would let me see. Yeah, so I would start by a quote by Barack Obama, who said, "And that's why we are here today, because something called precision medicine gives us one of the greatest opportunities for new medical breakthroughs that we have ever seen." And these are basically learning objectives, and I'll walk you through these. First, I would like to introduce the field of medicine, how it evolved, needs few examples, and and kind of take you for a deep dive in history, how the field began. So as per I think actually, as I have followed, and some of you who have followed the field, we all know that the field evolved from a smaller field called pharmacogenetics that studied inherited differences, that was variations in drug metabolism and response, being used to determine drug behavior in order to improve the efficacy of drugs. And personalized or individualized medicine. The words were coined later on, and according to me, these are the clinical applications of pharmacogenetics and pharmacogenomics, actually. So that's the simple way to put it. But although the personalized and individualized, terms were out there, I think when I will go and give a talk, somebody would always get up and ask, hey, how we are going to get so much money so that we can treat each patient differently, actually. So that the nomenclature was not that great, and we all realize it. So eventually the field evolved to be called precision medicine, and basically as the field also became broader to encompass not only the treatment option, but also observe the lifestyle as well as lifestyle of individuals to see how we can also integrate digital health as well as disease prevention. So precision medicine is an emerging approach for disease prevention and treatment that takes into account people's individual variations in genes, environment, and lifestyle. And the goal is being, traditionally, most medical care is based on expected response to an average patient. And we all know that there is no such thing as average patient. So the goal is to move towards medical care that is based on individuals' genomic, environmental, and lifestyle differences, enabling more precise methods to prevent and treat diseases. And some of it is already there, sequencing, immunotherapy, individualized immunotherapy, targeted therapy. So these are already being practiced in the clinic today. So we have made a great progress and in figuring out a precision medicine approach so that we can focus preventive and therapeutic interventions on those who benefit and sparing the side effects to those who would not. So again, to reiterate, to kind of solidify in your memory, precision medicine takes into account individuals' genetic, environmental, lifestyle, as well as lifestyle factors, actually. So historically, in early, 2010, 11, 12, National Research Council at the National Academies was given a task to kind of see where the field will be moving forward. So I think they all were very much excited about what Google Maps was able to do to, were able to lay down, several layers of data set together, and they all thought, hey, it will be amazing if we can lay down all the, omics data, genome, epigenome, microbiome, exposome, all that together, and can we so-called create a knowledge network where, where data from biomedical research as well as clinical medicine will fuel into it, and then the knowledge network itself will become basically a tool to validate any new data that comes in, and more data we feed in, the knowledge network becomes more perfect, actually. So that was an great vision, and some of us took that vision and ran with it, and so far. This is a slide from UCSF. You can see that the vision is a little bit evolved, but I think so you can say the three pillars of biomedical research: basic sciences, population sciences, clinical discovery. Data from these is feeds to digital in tools such as digital health, computational health, imaging, omics, ethics and engagement. All that data goes into information commons that is used to build a knowledge network that is basically integrated data sets. And this knowledge network then it can be further utilized to enable innovation. So it basically fuels back to the pile right here. And this knowledge, and it can also be utilized for the knowledge-enabled discovery, actually. So I think, and the cycle continues. So what have been challenges, actually? There are always challenges. So I gave you the silver lining, but so there are challenges, and we all as a community has to address these challenges. This is one of the a survey that was done in 2017 that identified unstable or non-secure legal and regulatory framework as one of the majority of hurdles in moving precision medicine forward. Followed by lack of access to relevant data silos, and a limited ability to integrate data sources were runner-ups actually. And, for those who are studying cancer, tumor heterogeneity is a problem. Inter and intratumoral heterogeneity, is a problem actually. And that's not also challenging. There is a further challenge. So the tumor evolution is a challenge. So you can see that primary tumor, when it is treated and the disease relapses, the relapsed tumor has entirely different genomic sequence. So basically that leaves us to anticipation-based chemotherapy actually. So, and also number of mutations in human cancers is there are a lot actually. So it's sometimes challenging to know which ones are actionable mutations and which ones are not actually. And also sheer mutation rates across cancers are not uniform. So you can see that rhabdomyosarcoma being the least mutagenic, and melanoma, UV mediated melanoma being the most mutagenic actually. So that's also what we are pointing out is that are there opportunity to treat the more mutagenic cancers with precision medicine? So that's a question actually. And overall, I think we have made a lot of progress. Just to give you an example, we have changed the view of view of lung cancer. It was the traditional view of squamous cell cancer, carcinoma, large cell carcinoma, adenocarcinoma, that has now changed to KRAS, EGFR, HER2, BRAF, AKT, 1 PI3 kinase, and the list is further evolving actually. So various subsets of cancers actually, and not only just disease classification, but you can see that so now there are patients, when they get the individualized therapy, this patient is same, goes through a genetic test, one report is created, and based on that report, based on the mutation profile, the physician makes a decision to give him one or her one therapy, second therapy, or a combination actually. So these are practices in the clinic. And another challenge is that so far the sequencing efforts are majority of the times take coding gene into account, but non-coding gene is amazingly abundant in our human DNA. So human genome consists of 6% evolutionary conserved sequences, but the protein coding is approximately 1.2%. And most evolutionary innovation concerns the non-coding sequence, and most functional information is non-coding. And as you see, these are mRNA has become a household name after the COVID mRNA vaccination. But I have spent my career studying this, and if you follow the UTR, so untranslated region, 5' untranslated region, as we evolved, the 5' length was conserved, whereas 3' UTR length keeps on increasing, suggesting that we are humans not because we have more proteins, or we have but because those proteins are very well regulated. So these allow sites for regulatory agents to bind. And then I was fortunate to contribute to development of this field, which is now called non-coding RNA variations and population in variations associated with in populations of in disease progression or drug response actually. So these variations in the UTR region, they basically interfere with the normal regulation, leading to upregulation or downregulation of a gene. If a gene is an oncogene, it leads to cancer formation. If it's a drug gene associated with drug resistance genes, upregulations causes drug resistance, and the similar concept has been proven in several other diseases. So this is also also an amazing opportunity that has been presented, and it can be addressed by, by whole genome sequencing actually. So, and oncogene bypass, actually, this is one of the problems. So in therapy, if you are inhibiting one oncogene, actually the disease, so basically you turned off what the cancer tries to do is it survives by activating another oncogene pathway. So, and then sometimes there's no drug actually. So we are back to square one. And also, there are several genetic tests, but they always point to risks, but not always a cure. So we have to more, focus on more on cures actually. And one of the earlier studies, identified poor accuracy and reproducibility of lab developed tests, LTDs actually. And then FDA actually intervened, and now FDA is also is regulating the some of the lab developed tests that are widely utilized actually, and they have also launched Precision FDA to address the advances in precision medicine. So the way forward, I think so that's the. So as I mentioned before, the human genome sequencing has become more common. You can see that the cost of human genome sequencing has defied Moore's law actually, and there are currently various government-funded national genomic medicine initiatives. They're all over the world. So basically now we are collecting genomic sequencing information from all around the populations and all around the world, and this is and just to let you know that some of these are already approaches are utilized. This is the MD Anderson. They classify patients when a patient comes to by molecular profiling, and then utilizing prognostic markers to predict drug sensitivity, resistance, and markers to predict adverse drug events. And based on this, they are, they basically, assign folks in a different groups, and they treat those groups, precisely or in a more personalized, individualized settings, actually. So data integration has been one of the challenges in precision medicine, and we have, as a community, addressed that. So we need to basically, see if, with the patient and with respect to patients, we have to bring together clinical data, med and labs data, claims and transactions data, patient experience, and genomics data. These are all siloed. How do we basically integrate all that together so that we have a well integrated ecosystem? So that brings us to the big data, and big data ecosystem is very huge actually. You can see that the in applications industry, that's where life sciences, we are in healthcare, we have this is the space. There are a lot of open source companies and data source APIs, so those who are working on solutions, you can utilize those platforms. So usually big data, I have another 45 minutes talk, so I think I would this is a very complex field, so I will just spare you with this and just continue with the pace of the precision medicine. So data silos, as I mentioned, is one of the problems. So data silo exists in in institutional warehouses as well as intra and intra-institutional warehouses actually, and this can be solved. Examples include a network of sharing. So the GA4GH Global Alliance for Genomics and Health basically, and also American Association for Precision Medicine, and Innovation Collective also is a place where stakeholders have come together, and IP guardianship has been provided by the American Association of Precision Medicine legal team actually. So So the next challenge is that affordability, so we have the sciences, we have made a great advancement in the science, but I think payers have to catch up with which tests are, which tests are, can be approved, the payments can be approved and not. And this is where for patient, it makes a much difference because these tests are costly actually. So, and coming back to exposome, precision public health is becoming a new field, which is, social and ecological factors, must be accounted on top of individual-based fine-grained approach for precision medicine. So your, the area where you live, is a disaster area. Are you living in a, food deserts or racial? What is the racial disparity? What are the chances of vector-borne diseases actually, and what is the overall welfare? So I think that also determines the exposome mediated diseases. So it'll be good to know. And what are the expected benefits of precision medicine in a different stage of clinical care pathway? They can be utilized for prevention, as I mentioned, to identify at-risk groups and target prevention. They can identify, we can use for diagnostics. We can detect diseases at earlier stages when it is easier to treat, and at treatment stage we can optimize therapies and reduce adverse reactions, like I mentioned in the previous examples. And overall, we are contributing towards improving health-related outcomes, actually. And pharma industry has learned this lesson that there is high failure rates during the late stage of drug development, actually. And there was one of the reports suggested approximately 76% failure rates, actually. So it is in pharma's pharma's favor to have a precision medicine based approach early on, to have a drug diagnostics combination, so that they can kind of further tailor their population to the responders and not include non-responders in their treatment. And I think this is a list of FDA approved combinations in diagnostics assays by the year in 2020 actually. So you can see that there are approximately 44 drugs that were approved had some kind of a diagnostics component in it. And overall, if you look at the FDA database, there are 457 unique drugs available with some kind of a pharmacogenetics test available in labels available. So I think so for those who want to explore, there are options actually. So and future perspective, so what's happening actually, and where are we going? So we have medicine past. In medicine in past, it was based on personal, it was based on a symptoms actually, and the present medicine is based on pattern, and the future medicine will be algorithm based actually. So in short, like I described, so there will be personal integrated omics data that will be combined with the imaging data to build a personal molecular classifier, and a lot of institutions have already done this. And then as a new patient comes in, the data goes through the personal molecular classifier, identifying the right drug and right drug in diagnostic combinations, which the report is delivered to a physician via digital health, and physician utilizes physician conveys the promise of precision medicine to a patient, which is a right drug to the right patient to the right time, actually. So to maximize the potential of precision medicine, we must provide robust, sustainable, and predictable funding increases to NCI, NIH, and FDA, and support regulatory science initiatives like Precision FDA. And FDA has taken an amazing stand at this, and during the pandemic, and they have really kind of changed the norm of how the timelines associated with the approval of drugs actually, and increase patient participation in precision medicine initiatives actually, access to clinical trial and knowledge given to physicians that this clinical trial is enrolling, so that they can pass on the patient, develop and train biomedical research workforce of tomorrow, and support precision medicine efforts actually. And overall, precision medicine. There are some government. So all for those who know, the All of Us program is creating a cohort of over 1 million American volunteers who will share their genetic data, biologic samples, and diet lifestyle information, all linked to their electronic health records if they choose. And Verily Google's spinoff is also doing the similar study called I just blanked out on that, but then I think that's their study is also similar focus, and overall this is a great initiative that will tell us how Verily is project baseline. Actually, that's their their project is called. So overall, what we will learn is that how the lifestyle differences make patients sick or healthy, actually. And Genetic and Non-Discrimination Act, it protects Americans against discrimination based on genetic information when it comes to health insurance and employment, actually. So and it fully enables folks to take utilize promise of personalized precision medicine without fear of discrimination. And in remaining 5 minutes, I can focus on American Association for Precision Medicine and the goal it has, the role it has been playing to accelerate the field of precision medicine through research, education, communication, and collaboration to foster new medical breakthroughs. So our goal is to facilitate dialogue between 4 P's of precision medicine, that is patient, providers, public health planners, that's government, and payers, to work together to achieve the goal of delivering improved outcomes. So we have a data AI community, we call it Data AI National Summit. In short, it's DANCE, actually. It's an amazing, vibrant community, and I invite you to join. The community meets once a year in our AAPM, annual meeting. 2021 was a blast, and 2022 is in planning. And we also have a cancer precision oncology based community. It's called Excellence in Precision Oncology, in short, EXPO. And we so inaugural EXPO was organized on the Ohana floors of Salesforce Tower, actually. So it's a very, very, amazing meeting and amazing experience to join this. And AAPM has an action-oriented team, and we are, innovation is on our, our priority, actually. So we have, we have created, we have an innovation center. Actually, we have spun out several companies. We also have an investor club where these are partnering investors who also match our investments, actually, in those companies, actually. And we are also in a process of creating a foundation fund where we are going to issue grants to organizations, individuals, as well as other nonprofits who are running precision medicine based initiatives, actually. So I already spoke about AAPM Angels and Investors meeting. If you are interested, you can just write to the email address, and you have to be accredited investor to be part of it, actually. And last, we'll tell you the story of AAPM Coronavirus Task Force, which is the first global coronavirus task force that was created. It is a global network of experts in clinical science, technical, and advocacy backgrounds focused on discovering and disseminating strategies for COVID-19. And we had approximately 9 project teams. One AI, ML, data science focused, partnerships, prevention, policy, diagnostics, therapeutics, supply chain, impact investments, content and media, and mental health, to basically tackle challenges associated with COVID-19 pandemic, actually. And AAPM Act actually utilized ecosystem that AAPM built that includes technology partners, investors, member companies, hospitals, healthcare institutions, startups, as well as academic and government institutions, actually. So we provide together training programs, mentorship, advisors, as well as advisory hours. So AAPM is a unique ecosystem of experts and corporations providing domain expertise, mentoring, ecosystem connects, funding, and data driven innovation. And we have an amazing group of members and supporters, and that list is continuously growing. And I can just summarize what we have done without going into a detail. We focused our efforts on how do we prevent the spread. We even created an algorithm that predicted in US which states will have the outbreak before anybody knew, actually. So we created at one of our innovation initiatives, actually. And can we change quickly? Can we quickly diagnose? And we took a really early stand on creating ACE2 antibody that was came out of our initiative, actually. And can we treat can we provide rapid and effective treatment? And we have spun out a company that's bringing COVID drugs to patients, actually. And can we provide remote assistance to patients and physicians, actually. And so remote surgery and related innovations, and how can we solve the post-pandemic mental footprint that is this is a COVID-19 crisis. It's also a mental health crisis. So I think we have a mental health task force that deals with it, and that's a drug that I talked about. We have already submitted pre-IND application to US FDA and received a very positive response. So this is a drug that's basically has a 4 mechanism of action, and it's a right drug to address the challenges that are associated with the COVID-19, actually. And we have also have a philanthropic initiative when we all have seen what was happening in India, and we our coalition our task force was active in India, and our coalition came together and sent up to $4.5 million worth of stuff to India to help in the overall medical system. We partnered with leading Anupam Kher and his Care Foundation, who Anupam is one of the promising actors in Indian film industry, as well as hospitals and healthcare institutions to provide the help that they needed. AAPM also was one of the first organization to provide patients a cancer and COVID source when pandemic hit. Cancer patients didn't know where to go, so we provided them an online solution where they could connect with physicians. So this was, and we were also first to, bring a COVID-19 global summit where we brought pharma diagnostics, and antibody discovery, as well as vaccine worlds, folks together to brainstorm how to tackle the challenges associated with pandemic. We also have a woman in precision medicine group that focuses on women taking a lead in the field of precision medicine, and and nothing would have been done without the support of our supporters, who are individuals, corporations, foundations that share the same vision of to scale the precision medicine, which we call modern medicine, actually. And we are big in recognitions. We have we recognize the community, and we know that recognitions make people work harder, and we need folks to work harder during these hard times, actually. So as I said, AAPM annual meeting 2021 was a grand success. I invite you to the 2022, and thank you very much. And that's my email in case you want to get to me. And overall, I think I will leave you with this thought that this is one painting. It's called, the painting is called The Doctor by Luke Fields, actually. It's basically shows a relationship between physician contemplating, looking at the patient, actually. So overall, the goal should be, as technology and advances, the goal should be we give more time to between patient and physicians, and let the technology automations take care of the other stuff. With that, thank you very much. I can take some questions if you have.
So that was Dr. Prasoon Mishra's session. Dr. Prasoon Mishra wasn't able to come live today. He had a meeting with the Prime Minister. Yes, he's that big of an influential person. So all of you have, I'm sure you must have seen his email ID on the presentation. Also, he's on LinkedIn as Dr. Prasoon Mishra. You can please find him, and he's a very, very helpful person. And I'm sure any questions that you have, he'd be more than happy to answer. Next up, we have Leslie Chan. Leslie, hi, you can hear me?
Yes. Can you hear
Leslie,
me?
thank you so much. Yes, I can. Thank you so much for being a part of the Global Virtual Healthcare Summit today. As you must have seen, we've had a great set of speakers, and I think we are going to end it big with you today. So before we start off with Leslie's session, I would like to introduce Leslie Cham to the audience. So Leslie is a clinical research coordinator and registered nurse with over 6 years of expertise in nursing and clinical trial management. He has excelled in spearheading complex trials focused on diabetes and renal diseases, showcasing proficiency with high-profile drugs such as Ozempic and Jardiance. Currently pursuing a master's in regulatory affairs at Northwestern University with a biopharmaceutical concentration, Mr. Chan is committed to blending his extensive clinical research skills with regulatory affairs knowledge to drive medical innovation and leave his own mark on the future of healthcare. Mr. Chan's dedication to advancing healthcare is illustrated by his significant contributions to scientific research, actively collaborating on the publication of several articles highlighting the latest treatments. He has played a crucial role in refining trial protocols. His background as a registered nurse in general medicine and mental health has equipped him with invaluable insights into patient challenges, motivating him to leverage his biopharmaceutical expertise to pioneer solutions. Beyond traditional clinical research, Mr. Cham currently focuses on exploring emerging advancements in drugs and technology, including the controlled substance psilocybin for mental health and applications of artificial intelligence in rural healthcare settings. So I think we have with us a very holistic speaker, Mr. Cham. I would like to just share the host rights to you, so you would be able to share your screen. Yes, over to you.
Hello? Oh, wait.
Yes, we can see your screen.
Oh, there we go. Okay. Hi, everyone. Thank you for that warm welcome. I'm saying hi from Toronto today, and good morning from everyone. And it's quite early, but I'm so excited to start talking about psilocybin, or also known as magic mushroom. And I'm here to kind of dispel some of the perceptions that we might have about this drug, and to kind of go into a deep dive of the background and the history of this drug and what the current regulatory considerations and the innovations that are happening with this drug today. So in terms of disclosures or conflicts of interest and disclaimers, I just want to have nothing to disclose, and that the information provided today does not constitute as medical advice and are for educational purposes only. So on today's agenda, I will be embarking with you guys on a journey through the fascinating world of psilocybin, a compound that has captured the attention of researchers, clinicians, and public alike, especially in the recent years. We will be exploring the rich background of psilocybin, where I'll be discussing its history, the current innovations in mental health, and the complex regulatory landscape that surrounds this drug. I believe that it is important to understand the background of psilocybin, as it's not just a journey into the past, but it's a crucial foundation for comprehending the current regulatory context of these drugs, and some of the understanding of the social perceptions of this drug, as well as what the future implications of this drug may have on our healthcare, especially in the mental health field. So in terms of psilocybin's use, there has been artworks throughout the ages depicting its use, suggesting a millennia-long relationship. However, some have suggested that it even goes further beyond that, even way backer through acts of foraging that hominin ancestors may have encountered these mushrooms and have ingested them as well. In terms of psilocybin, it's also recognized as a psychoactive drug. It exerts a profound impact on the user's awareness, thoughts, behaviors, moods, and feelings. Historically, it's been used in ritual ceremonies and healing practices. Ingestions of psilocybin often also results in perceptual distortions, including hallucinations. Oftentimes, visual perceptions of the external world may be viewed as melting or morphing to the user who have ingested psilocybin. And often this can lead to mystical experiences. These may involve divinations or spiritual contexts, providing users with an openness to understand themselves, manifesting an inward self-reflection or and acceptance, as well as understanding of the world, gaining insight into the mysteries of the universe. And this expansive awareness is often described as oceanic boundlessness, and some users may even undergo ego dissolution, which is a temporary loss of self or ego. And during such experiences, the physical boundaries between the external world and the self become blurred or even removed. Some may akin it to having an out-of-body experience. And in the realm of positive trips or journeys through the psychedelic experience, users frequently report heightened satisfaction and enhanced sense of wellness and being in their lives. And as you can see, all of these things can be potentially beneficial for someone who's suffering certain mental health disorders, such as depression. In terms of the overview of psilocybin, it's in its inactive form until it's ingested and metabolized, in which it unlocks its psychedelic potential. It then becomes psilocin. And as you can see on the slide, psilocin and serotonin are remarkably similar. And so psilocin is actually a serotonin receptor agonist. And to kind of grasp the effects of psilocin, serotonin receptors are also important for mood, emotion, and cognition, in which psilocin can mimic these attributes. To kind of describe the impact that psilocin may have on the brain, such as synaptic plasticity, the strengthening of synapses over time, altered brain networks, and promotion of neurogenesis, the generation of new neurons. One can kind of think of a metaphor of envisioning the brain as a vast network of roads governed by traffic lights that regulates information flow. The serotonin system, including serotonin and its receptors, act as a regulatory mechanism for this flow of information. Psilocybin can mimic the actions of serotonin, engaging with serotonin receptors, primarily the 5-HT2A receptors, and kind of shaking up these traffic lights. This interaction boosts activity in specific brain regions, such as the prefrontal cortex, releasing further neurotransmitters that are excitatory signals for other brain cells. And this heightened activity disrupts the usual flow of information. And this is important as it might shed light to the therapeuticness for certain mental health disorders, such as depression. The traffic light becomes more permissive, facilitating a freer flow of information, rendering the brain more flexible and interconnected. All signs that can potentially help someone who's experiencing or having a mental health disorder like depression, in which oftentimes the thoughts can be stuck in that negative thought process. the traffic lights, and then imagining, you can also imagine your regular highways in your brain temporarily forming new connections and pathways. And this alteration in normal brain pattern influences the information filtering and processing, and it ultimately affects how thoughts are perceived. And this outcome is a psychedelic experience where perception shifts, creativity can surge, and a sense of expanded consciousness can unfold, which can all have an impact on someone who has, due to the wiring or predisposition of their brain, may be more predisposed to depression. So psilocybin can be a potential therapeutic modality for that. These brain changes are theorized to contribute to clinical improvement seen in depression, lasting for extended periods post-treatment, while the exact mechanisms remain mysterious, which is typical for the complexities of the brain. The influences on neural networks and neurotransmitter system is believed to play a significant role for psilocybin for these mental health disorders. So going back to the history of psilocybin, it was first discovered by Albert Hofmann, a Swiss chemist, in 1958, and he was able to synthesize that synthetic psilocybin, which helped kind of pave way for future testing of this drug. And then going towards the 1960s, it emerges as a very pivotal era where we witnessed the widespread attention and use of psilocybin and other psychedelic drugs in Western society. The psychedelic era, or also known as the psychedelic movement or counterculture, spanned the 1960s to the early 1970s. It was marked by prominent use of this substance and the exploration of altered states of consciousness. This period gave rise to both cultural and social revolution, embracing in new forms of artistic expressions, music, philosophy, and lifestyle, also incorporating themes of peace, love, and unity. So there was a lot of exploration with these drugs that was being used in the public, but simultaneously, this era also marked the beginning or the early stages of what regulatory science we know is now today. It laid down the foundation for the current regulatory landscape that we are all working with. The Kiefer-Harris Amendment was passed in 1962, which strengthened the drug regulations by requiring proof of efficacy and safety for drug approval. So it's a crucial note to that research did occur during this time period with psilocybin. However, a lot of the results from these trials, due to the beginning stages of regulatory science, would not uphold to today's benchmark or standards of what we expect in terms of verification of results. However, there was studies being done on depression, obsessive compulsive disorders, and alcohol cessations at that time, substance cessation at that time. So moving to the 1970s, we witnessed the growing counterculture movement. However, at the same time around this era, there's a lot of geopolitical factors, including Nixon's war on drugs, coupled with the increasing regulatory strictness, accumulated in the passing of the Controlled Substance Act in the 1970s in the USA. Consequently, psilocybin was classified as a Schedule I controlled substance, and this designation meant that outside of approved clinical trials or special approvals, psilocybin was basically considered an illicit drug. The possession of this substance outside of these approved contexts is basically illegal. And due to that process, it really impacted our growth and research with this drug. It also provided social stigma or fearful perceptions of psychedelic drugs in general. And so the impact of these regulatory measures led to a 25-year hiatus in human psychedelic research, and access to these substances, such as psilocybin, became increasingly challenging as it required special approval, and also a lack of resources, such as a decrease in federal funding for these types of research. And as of now, both the FDA, European Union, Health Canada all these countries do not have a legal indication for psilocybin and is still classified as a Schedule 1 controlled substance. So moving towards the 20th century, slowly in the 1990s to the 1990s to the 20th century, we do see a slow resurgence of psilocybin research, especially in the last 5 years. I would say there's been a tremendous growth of psilocybin research. So on this slide, it depicts all the clinical trials that have that are indicated with psilocybin as a treatment. So if you go into clinicaltrials.gov or UDRA-CT or the Health Canada Registry or the US, European Union, or Canada, you'll be able to find these results. And so one thing to note here is that the US currently has 160 trials, although these are just registered trials. So it means that it doesn't mean that they're officially finished. It can also just mean that they are pending to start or have started already or have finished. You'll notice that 160 trials are registered, in the USA right now, compared to the other countries, which can mark the beginning of the US being a prominent leader in psilocybin research. In terms of the indications for these trials, they're really majority of them are looking at depression, as well as cancer, in terms of anxiety and depression. These are usually incurable cancer conditions. So oftentimes patients may feel a sense of hopelessness or what we call like end of life mood disorders. So as well as, interestingly, substance cessation. So these are the type of trials that are being focused. And why is depression so important? This figure here is from the World Health Organization that shows the importance of innovation in our healthcare, especially for depression, as it's a significant global health issue. It affects approximately 300 million people and is the second leading cause of disability. Furthermore, the challenges associated with existing treatments for depression, such as delayed onsets of effects, limited efficacy for individuals, and undesirable side effects, illustrate the need for alternative and more effective therapeutic options. When you compare this to psilocybin, there has been studies that show even 1 or 2 dosage have already resulted in a quicker onset than traditional antidepressant treatments. And also they have different long-term side effects. And so psilocybin may have more tolerable side effects compared to other medications such as SSRIs. So this is why the potential benefit of psilocybin, as suggested by the recent research, have generated such enormous interest in the recent years, exploring new avenues for treatment-resistant depression. However, there are special considerations when we are dealing with psilocybin as a psychedelic drug. It's not the perfect drug. Every drug has their side effects. While this is not an exhaustive list, but this is it emphasizes the key considerations when we're dealing with psilocybin as a treatment or in our clinical trials. And so researchers widely agree that individuals with a history of psychosis disorders or those with first-degree relatives who have experienced such disorders would be considered contraindicated for psilocybin. It's also important to emphasize the state of the setting and the mental state that the user brings into the experience. So oftentimes recommendations for trial designs often include a supervision from a professional healthcare in mental health to help them guide through their psychedelic journey to ensure that they are safe and not harmed during this process. And another thing to think about is the harm potential for psilocybin. This is a graph where 40 European Union addiction scientists, experts who basically scored 20 drugs on 16 factors related to harm. Drugs are ranked by overall harm from left, which is being the most harmful, to the right, which is the least harmful to users, and its harm to others and to themselves was in this graph. As you can see in this instance, harm rating at both the population and the individual level were among the lowest for magic mushrooms. So it was the least ranked harm potential. In terms of addiction abuse, psilocybin do not operate on the traditional concerns that we have with dopamine pathways that are related to addictions we see in cocaine, alcohol, nicotine, or opiates. However, although the abuse of potential appears low, it does not infer that these drugs may not be misused or have adverse effects and potential risks associated with unsupervised or recreational use. Tolerance may occur with psilocybin as more research is required to determine dependence. And the research does not appear to allude that the users have withdrawal symptoms, although some people may be addicted to the experience that are provided by the magic mushrooms. Overall, the concern for psilocybin is more a context-dependent one. In a therapeutic context with appropriate supervision, it may offer potential benefits. However, recreational or supervised use raises concern about safety, mental health impact, and potential for misuse. So when we now moving towards the regulatory side of psilocybin, and I want just to discuss the prominent themes that are emerging for common trial designs with psilocybin. So there's two school of thoughts right now that's going on. There's microdosing, which is giving 0.5 milligram to 1 milligram a day, versus what is called a standard dose study or a 2-dose treatment that ranges either from 10 to 25 or 30 milligrams. The microdosing goal is not to elicit a full-blown psychedelic response. They're more interested in the sub-perceptual doses of psychedelics in daily life. And there's some studies that are showing that there's a positive significant subjective effects, but not impairing other performance and cognition. And whereas the full dose is often used to elicit that psychedelic response and is often paired with psychotherapy, a form of psychotherapy. And a single session or a limited number of sessions may be conducted. And so these studies are oftentimes the participant comes in and they'll take the drug, and typically the effects will last around 20 to 40 minutes is when they have that psychedelic experience. And if eventually it usually resolves in terms of like any effects will resolve between 3 to 6 hours. And in both cases, they do gather subjective data, such as questionnaires on mood disorders that have been verified for validity. And in terms of concerns about adverse events, oftentimes the higher the amount you go, the more likely that will occur. So usually 10 times the recommended dose would, there's been studies that have done that has shown that users will have significant fear and paranoia. In terms of non-clinical studies with rats, it showed that they had to eat 17 kilograms of mushrooms to ingest the equivalence of for toxic effects. So the FDA did release the first draft guidance of for psychedelic drugs just this last summer. And one of the quotes, one of the sentences in this draft I want to highlight is that this is an emerging area of drug development. There is limited experience as to the configuration of programs that may be supported approval of a psychedelic drug. Rather than providing specific recommendations on study design, this guidance presents foundational constructs that all sponsors, including academics, sponsors, investigators, studying the therapeutic potential of psychedelic drugs should consider, such as psychedelic drug development programs are still subjected to the same regulations and evidentiary standards for other approvable drugs while considering psychedelic considerations. So some of these considerations here are that, again, in terms of the chemistry manufacturing controls, they still need to be adhere to. Additionally, depending on what type of psychedelic drug you're working with, there does not seem to be a need for certain animal toxicology studies if enough data already exists in terms of human exposure. In terms of chronic conditions that we're dealing with, such as depression, they're often chronic, and so non-clinical studies and dosing may need to reflect that longevity of that disease. And so sponsors need to be able to take that into consideration and plan their trials accordingly. Also, placebos with trial designs can be difficult because, especially for the standard dosing that elicits a psychedelic response, you will know if you have a hallucination or not. And also, another thing to be that's important to be mindful is, how do you get clear, informed consent? How do you describe a psychedelic experience to a person who has never experienced hallucinations or perceptual distortions? And being able to properly provide that information to them. As well, long-term effects regarding the 5-HT receptor have been shown, especially the 5-HT2B receptor has been shown to have elicit certain heart conditions. And so sponsors will need to be able to have the proper measures in place in their studies to monitor for that. And finally, how do you address mitigation of adverse events or serious risks during the clinical studies, and whether or not these kind of similar strategies can be implemented post-marketing? So if, for example, if you're having studies with psychotherapists involved, how do you ensure that that consistency is still there after the drug is approved? So other important questions to consider when thinking about psilocybin research is that what are the impact, the public health impact of this drug, especially on non-medical use, and what are the safety monitoring standardization for across different studies and settings for this drug? Can you provide the same psychotherapy treatment across all these different studies? And what are in terms of evolving regulatory landscape, like how do we ensure that our research continues to evolve and adapt to incorporate the new knowledge and emerging therapies? So in terms of the real world applications, or what we see currently right now, there's been a lot of movement and growth in this field. It's a very exciting time. Just this last summer, there was the Psychedelic Science Conference that occurred in Denver, Colorado, where 11,000 scientists attended. And it was the largest psychedelic conference in history. Furthermore, there's been in US and in other parts of the countries, kind of also in Canada as well, I've seen, there's a slow movement towards decriminalization versus illegal use. So having or possessing this drug may not result in criminal charges, but more in terms of civil penalties like fines. And that it may mark a similar pathway of decriminalization for psilocybin that we saw for the journey that it took for cannabis. And as well as in 2018, the FDA did provide 2 designation breakthroughs. Sorry, that was in 2018 and 2019. In total, there were 2 designation breakthroughs for psilocybin, which really kind of further propels the research in this area. And finally, there's been unregulated use, which I kind of alluded to with the decriminalization. There are, for instance, in Toronto and other parts of Ontario, there have been, what I've witnessed are magic mushroom stores that are opening up, and they don't seem to be regulated or enforced to shut down. As well as on the internet, there are websites of retreat centers that promote the narratives of personal growth, emotional breakthroughs, and spiritual development, and they use the results of early phases of clinical trials with psilocybin to kind of bolster their claims to potential customers, despite the fact that these trials were not designed for that purpose. So these are kind of considerations that we need to think about in terms of the movement or the trend of where psilocybin will go, and in terms of how it will enter the market or be approved as a drug. And so my final thoughts are that we are really in the early stages of uncovering what this drug can do. There's, in terms of applications, they are also being used for other mental health disorders, such as like anorexia, binge eating, a whole host of cessation disorders, as well as obsessive compulsive disorders, post-traumatic stress disorders. So it seems like we're just at the beginning of figuring out, what this drug may do. And all of this is really important because it's crucial to address mental health conditions with innovative approaches, which also aligns with today's summit, especially when traditional treatments may not be sufficient for everyone. The recognition of the limitations of current therapies and the exploration of novel treatments can contribute to more personalized and effective interventions for individuals that suffer from mental health. And so I'm just really excited for this area of research, and I hope that today that you are able to take something back with you and able to also kind of appreciate where this drug is going. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Leslie. This was a very, very interesting topic. You are doing a very different area of research. I actually didn't know it was the magic mushroom, to be very honest. It's a very interesting area of research. Hello?
Yes. Yeah, I totally agree with you. Very interesting. I fell into it as well. And I had my own perceptions of psychedelic drugs before this. And so, yeah, it was just, it's been a very exciting process just to learn about this drug and to see how it goes.
I'm sure. And it's very interesting to also learn the different uses that these drugs have, like the cannabis. So we have one question. Why do you think it is a very, like most of the research on magic mushrooms is being done in the US? Like we saw there are, I think they did see that there's 160 studies registered in the US. So why is a huge amount of research done in the US currently?
I believe that there could be a lot of reasons. US drug market is one of the biggest drug markets in the world. I know I'm in Canada, and I know that our research and innovation is a lot smarter in terms of the biopharmaceutical industry compared to the US. They may have a lot more funding as well. And it seems like US is starting to, Oregon was the first to get federal funding from to further psilocybin research. And I think it was California as well. They're also getting funding. I think Canada just recently, just a few years ago, for our mental health organization, just finally got funding to test out psilocybin as well. I just think that US has always been a very prominent innovator in our industry. And there may be also other countries' regulatory priorities may be more stringent. I think it's a multitude of factors that kind of make up the result of this right now. But I think that as time goes on and as more research is being done, that slowly, I think other countries will also catch on as well.
Right. And so I think that US is going to be like a few steps further when compared to other countries. It's probably going to have the drug much earlier when compared to the market. So yeah, I think that was the only question. Leslie, again, the audience has requested for presentation that you can share.
Yeah, for sure. I also did check the Indian clinical trial registry, and unfortunately, they're in maintenance. It said emergency maintenance mode, so I was not able to do any searches. I tried because I was also curious of what was going on in terms of psilocybin in India as well in terms of research. But yeah.
Oh, okay. Although to be very honest, I don't think that currently there is research happening on psilocybin over here, because I also personally am very interested to learn more about magic mushrooms. I discovered them very, very recently, and I did try to check. I don't think, because like you said, the regulatory bodies of a few countries are still very stringent. So here right now, even cannabis is a very tricky subject to touch.
Yeah,
So,
and also social perception also I think also plays into that as well. Yeah.
although India would be like a very nice population to study the drug, maybe moving forward, hopefully soon. Okay, thank you so much, Leslie. It was nice chatting up with you, and thank you for the wonderful presentation and insights on something so innovative. General drugs we always talk about. I was very intrigued in your presentation, and I am also looking forward to receiving it.
Thank you so much for having me. I just want to again say thank you for the whole organization and everyone that's been involved in connecting me to it. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye. You have a good day.
You too.
Thank you. Okay, so with this, we come to an end of the Global Virtual Healthcare Summit 2023. I hope all the participants had a lot of learning from the session. We had some amazing speakers. We worked very hard to get you very elite speakers for this year. And we will see you soon in the next year, hopefully with something bigger and something better. Have a nice weekend, everyone. Thank you so much for joining in again. We will send across the certificates and the presentations as requested by the attendees. Thank you.